Chapter 1960. The Test. 1. As soon as the beasts of the endless sea came ashore, they immediately surrounded the two sides in the battle. Then, according to the previous plan, some of the beasts watched and were ready to pick up the leftovers, while the others rushed toward the two sides in the battle. Of course, their main targets were those who did evil in the evil sea. Their appearance immediately turned the situation on the battlefield one-sided. However, the Ning family elders pretended not to know them, while Potion's side, after seeing these beasts taking advantage of the situation, the anger in their hearts swish, 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 swish to the top of their heads. Fuck! These sea beasts were really too hateful. They actually took advantage of the time when they were fighting to launch a sneak attack. Moreover, it seemed like he was targeting them. Thinking of this, Puotian's subordinates were secretly resentful. But at this time, they would never have thought that the beasts of the endless sea were in cahoots with Master Ning and the others. After all, to most people's knowledge, humans and beasts rarely cooperated. Although Potion's subordinates were all a little angry from embarrassment, the Ning family's elders and beasts didn't care about that. They still fought as they should. The beasts of the endless ocean specialized in sneak attacks. When the two sides were fighting, they attacked Potion's subordinates. As a result, they were attacked from top to bottom, and suddenly all of them were in a mess. Seeing this, the reverent god who was fighting Master Ning was furious. "Who are you people? If you have the guts, report your name." The reverent god's face darkened as a huge flame burned in his heart. If he didn't have a trace of rationality left, he would have already fought to the death with these people. What a joke. Do you think we have to tell you our names just because you want us to? Hearing this, the master of the Ning family laughed. Seeing the slightly mocking smile of the master of the Ning family, the reverent god became even more angry. "What's wrong? You don't dare to? Oomph. What kind of expert are you if you hide your head and show your tail?" The reverent god deliberately provoked him, but the master of the Ning family was not moved at all. "It's not that I don't dare to, but it's unnecessary." The master of the Ning family smiled and said disapprovingly. The reverent god felt a headache when he saw the master of the Ning family keeping his mouth shut. This man was so cunning that he couldn't figure out his true identity. This fact made him quite depressed. He didn't know when such an expert had appeared in the divinity. He claimed to know the powerhouses of the divine world like the back of his hand, but he had never heard of such a powerhouse in the divine world. At this time, he would never have thought that the one fighting with him was the master of the Ning family. Of course, the master of the Ning family did not intend to let him know. Otherwise, if he passed the news to Puotian in the land of evil demons, the Ning family would be in trouble. Not only that, but he also felt that he should end the battle quickly in case these people found help. At the thought of this, he sent a collective voice transmission to the crowd and beasts, telling them to hurry up. He himself used 90% of his strength to fight the reverent god in front of him. With the command of the master of the Ning family, the elders and beasts of the Ning family were suddenly in high spirits and used all their strength, striving to hit these people in one blow. As a result, the pressure on Puotian's subordinates increased sharply, and soon their movements were a bit messy. The elders of the Ning family and the beasts seized the opportunity and attacked at the same time. In an instant, several people were directly killed and the others were all injured. Seeing this, they attacked at the same time again. After taking turns to attack, 2/3 of Puotian's subordinates were soon killed and the other 1/3 were seriously injured. The one with the lightest injury was probably the reverent god who was fighting with the master of the Ning family. The reason why he was the least injured was also greatly related to the Ning family's master's leniency, who asked the Ning family's master to be so evil as to let him personally see his brothers fall one by one. To that reverent god, this was definitely not a small stimulation. The fact was as Master Ning had expected. When the reverent god, who was fighting with Master Ning, saw his companions die one by one, and he was helpless, he was so resentful that he even had the idea of swallowing Master Ning alive. Unfortunately, he was entangled by Master Ning and couldn't save those people in time. He didn't miss each person's death from the corner of his eyes, which made him so angry that his eyes were about to crack in bloodshot. His eyes were spewing fire. Seeing his expression, the master of the Ning family had no doubt that this man's hatred for him had reached an indescribable level. However, he did not take it to heart. After all, battles were cruel. It was either you die or I die. More importantly, none of them had a clean background. Their hands had been stained with the blood of countless people and beasts. They had to pay for it sooner or later, so they should have expected this day to come. However, it was one thing to expect it, and another to see his brother who had gone through life and death with him die with his own eyes. Moreover, the reverent god had never thought that they would one day be forced into such a sorry state. After all, even the divine Lord's estate could do nothing to them. However, they had capsized in a small river today. This fact was too great a blow to him. He could not bear it. Thinking of this, he quickly sent a message to Patian for help, but who knew that Patian didn't give him any reply. How? How could this be possible? The reverent god couldn't believe it, but he knew very well that his message hadn't been sent out. He looked at the master of the Ning family in shock and became more vigilant. How powerful was this man that he could even cut off his message? Such strength was truly too terrifying. The master of the Ning family, who was standing in front of him, saw the reverent god's expression and said with a light smile, "What? Are you planning to find Patian to save you? Stop dreaming. How could I let you have that chance?" Master Ning's words were light, but the reverent god's face turned pale instantly. He stared at Master Ning in disbelief and asked, "You? How did you do that? Just who are you? You think he'll tell you?" The master of the Ning family grinned evilly, feeling very proud of himself. In fact, he really couldn't cut off the other party's voice transmission like the reverent god had thought. He had only used a little trick to slow down the speed of the other party's voice transmission. However, this way, his divine power was consumed at an unusually fast rate, so he had to keep throwing pills into his mouth while he was talking. Seeing their master's heroic act of boldly consuming elixirs, the Ning family's elders could not help but feel embarrassed. The corners of their mouths twitched nonstop because they knew that this was something their master had learned from that girl. Lung Roa Shue? Wu master, you've also become bad. Many elders couldn't help but think in their hearts. However, they didn't dare to say these words in front of the family head. Otherwise, they would be the unlucky ones. Chapter 1961. The Test 2. When the Fire Wolf clan's great elder saw this, he also looked at Master Ning with envy, jealousy, and hatred. He thought to himself, "It's good to be rich." It looked like they had to think of a good way to make money in the future. With such a thought, the Fire Wolf clan, which loved money, appeared in the divine realm in the future. However, the reverent god was the one who was the most affected among the crowd and the beasts. He kept panting and his eyes were about to pop out. The hand pointing at Master Ning was shaking violently, but he was so angry that he could not say a word. Seeing his face red and his neck rough, and his panting appearance, the master of the Ning family began to worry for him. "Are you all right? Is she sick?" "AI, if you're sick, you have to be treated. You can't do it like this," the master of the Ning family advised earnestly. His ordinary face after the disguise was full of worry. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the reverent god was so angry that he fainted. Seeing this, the Ning family elders all wanted to go up and find out what was going on, but they were stopped by their master with a wave of his hand. "Don't go over. He might be pretending. I'm just waiting for you silly rabbits to come to my door," the master of the Ning family reminded them loudly. However, when the silly rabbits heard this, they didn't know what to say. Were they really that silly? Then the master of the Ning family continued, "While he's pretending to be unconscious, you guys quickly clean up those who are still breathing. Don't leave any survivors." "Yes." All the elders and beasts responded in unison. Then, those who were still struggling on their last breath were in big trouble because all the elders and beasts had vented all their anger on them. They were determined not to let them die too easily. The breathtakingly tortured subordinates were tortured by the Ning family's elders and beasts until they wished they could die. Not long after, those who were still alive were all on the verge of death. Just kill me. Please, I beg you, kill me. Don't torture me. Some people begged for mercy in pain, regretting that they had provoked them. Unfortunately, this was not something they could avoid, even if they regretted it, because Master Ning and the others were coming for them. Just kill us. Give us a quick death. The remaining heaven-crushing subordinates all begged for mercy. This was the most sullen moment of their lives. They couldn't even die. Kill you? They'll give you a quick death? The head elder of the Fire Wolf clan asked with a smile. Yes, yes. The subordinates of breathtakingly lying on the beach hurriedly nodded. You guys wish. Didn't you treat us like ants just now? How can an expert beg for mercy from an ant? If this gets out, do you still want to be human? The Fire Wolf clan's grand elder said worriedly. We were wrong. You're not ants, we are. Now we just want to die. I beg you, please help us. Some people continued to beg for mercy. No, your third brother hasn't even begged for mercy. How can you all die before him? However, your endurance is much better than his. That guy actually pretended to faint. You're really too gutless. The Fire Wolf clan's great elder had a look of disdain on his face when he said this. However, the heaven-crushing subordinates who had heard his words didn't know how to continue. They knew very well that their third brother wasn't pretending to faint. He had really fainted. He had fainted from anger. To be able to make a reverent god faint from anger, it was enough to prove that these people's skills were extraordinary. They couldn't be unconvinced. However, after the Fire Wolf clan's chief elder finished speaking, he still evilly threw a small flame at the person closest to him. Instantly, that person's body caught on fire, and he jumped 3 times high before he jumped into the sea with a plop. Wow, and this action was so swift. It seems like we haven't mastered our skills yet. The Fire Wolf clan's grand elder muttered to himself with some regret. I didn't master it. This person is mine. At this moment, a huge whale floated up from the sea, and on its back was the man who had jumped into the sea in a hurry. However, that person was currently unconscious. You're trying to snatch food from the wolf's mouth. But I want to know, why did this person faint? The Fire Wolf clan's head elder grumbled before asking curiously. I ate too much stomach acid. When he jumped into the sea, he just happened to fall into my mouth. The whale said with an innocent expression. There was also a hint of grievance in its clear black eyes. Arg, you're not poisoned, are you? This person is unhygienic. What? The Fire Wolf clan's head elder immediately cried out in alarm. He even looked at the huge whale with a worried expression. I'm fine. My poison resistance is strong, but he was the one who was poisoned by me. The large whale chuckled. That's good. Hearing this, the grand elder of the Fire Wolf clan finally felt relieved. Even though they had never had much of a relationship with the beasts of the endless ocean, with Lung Ruoxue as a bridge, they could be considered friends now. Now that they had joined forces to fight against the enemy, they naturally had to care for each other. However, when the Ning family elders heard their conversation, they were rendered speechless. In fact, they were even more certain that these beasts had learned the bad things from Lung Ruoxue. The unlucky Lung Ruoxue had been shot while lying down. Then, the beasts of the endless ocean took turns to torture the surviving Preeper subordinates. Finally, they kindly sent them on their way. In the end, on the vast beach, apart from a master of the Ning family and the beasts, the only living opponent was the unconscious reverent god. Not long after, the reverent god finally opened his eyes. However, when he saw that he was surrounded by people and beasts, he really wished he could faint again. Even if he was a reverent god, it was impossible for him to fight against 100 people alone. Moreover, he was quite badly injured. If you dare to faint again, they'll strip you naked and take naked photos for everyone in the immortal realm to know. Master Ning threatened with a smile. You're so despicable. The reverent god was livid with anger, but the beasts laughed wretchedly when they heard Master Ning's words. It's good to be stripped. Quickly strip him naked. I haven't seen the body of a reverent god yet. Some beastie jeered. You see, my beastie friend had given you so much face." The master of the Ning family smiled ambiguously, seeing that the reverend god was so angry at them that he almost vomited blood. He was in a good mood, and the depression that had been there for the past few days was swept away. "Who cares?" The reverend god gritted his teeth in hatred. "You don't care? If that's the case, why are you still being so polite? Quickly strip him naked, then we'll take a nude photo and leave." Seeing this, the master of the Ning family directly ordered the beastie beside him. "You're so despicable." "I didn't faint," the reverend god quickly reminded him. "As long as I'm happy, I don't care if you faint or not," the master of the Ning family said shamelessly. Then he raised his hand, signaling the beast to act quickly. Chapter 1962. The Test 3. Hee. Leave this matter to us. We guarantee that it will be done properly. Upon seeing this, Firewolf's first elder promised. After he finished speaking, he made the first move. A tiny red flame instantly flew to the reverend god-level cultivator's body, but it only burned his clothes. When the beasts of the endless sea saw this, they were not to be outdone. However, most of them were water attribute beasts with divine power. Therefore, once they attacked, the fire of the Firewolf First Elder was immediately extinguished. "What are you guys doing?" "I'm setting a fire." "And you're going to help him put out the fire?" When Firewolf's First Elder saw that his flames had been extinguished, he was a little angry. Was this considered an internal conflict? "I made a mistake." The beastie that had extinguished the fire said apologetically. "What do we do now?" The head elder of the Firewolf clan felt a headache coming on when he saw the reverend god-level spirit being drenched like a chicken. The effect would definitely not be good if he was drenched. "That's easy. You can just use fire to dry his body." The beastie thought for a while and suggested. "AI, that's the only way." The first elder of the Firewolf clan sighed helplessly. He looked reluctant, but in fact he was excited. This was a once-in-lifetime opportunity. He could actually see the supreme god embarrass himself. He laughed wretchedly in his heart. Then, with a wave of his hand, a flame slightly larger than the previous one floated to the reverend god's body. Immediately after, the reverend god's body burst into flames that were half the height of a person. Seeing this, the Ning family's elders and the beasts collectively stepped back to avoid being affected by the flames. However, seeing how big the flames were, they couldn't help but worry. "You want me burned to death by your flames, right?" Some beasts couldn't help but ask. If this guy was burned to death just like that, they wouldn't be able to play anymore. "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." "You want burned to death." Moreover, the body of a reverend god is so strong. How can it not burn? The great elder of the Firewolf clan was very confident. After a short while, the flames were retracted, and the reverend god was completely clean. Not even a hair could be seen. Seeing this, all the beasts and the elders of the Ning family took out their memory crystals and gave him a close-up from head to toe. After that, the beasts took out their weapons and waved them in front of the reverend god. What do you guys want?" The reverend god, who wanted to faint but couldn't move and wanted to faint, growled with a red face while enduring the humiliation that these damn humans and beasts had given him. "Yo, he's quite energetic. It seems like you still have the strength to play with us." A sea beast laughed evilly, its eyes full of hatred. After it finished speaking, it was the first to stab the reverend god with its sharp weapon that was like an iron plier. The screams continued. At this time, the master of the Ning family walked to the side and sat down, watching the show. After a long time, Master Ning felt that it was about time. He told the beasts who were seeking revenge to stop, and then sent the reverend god to see his ancestor. After destroying the corpses and getting rid of all traces, the master of the Ning family immediately led his men out of the endless ocean. The sea beasts also all dove back into the deep sea and hid. When Patian received the news that his subordinates had encountered a strong enemy, he quickly rushed to the endless sea. The surface of the endless sea had already returned to its calm. There was no one on the beach, and the aura of his subordinates had disappeared without a trace. He also had a bad premonition in his heart. Suddenly, a sea of fire ignited in his heart. His anger burned through the sky, and he vented all his anger on the sea. He kept throwing out his palms. Each palm was full of pressure and abundant divine power. In the blink of an eye, the surface of the endless sea was rolled up with monstrous waves, and many weak sea beasts were swept to the beach by the waves. However, these sea beasts that had been brought up by the waves were so weak that they couldn't even speak. Patian couldn't get anything out of them. In a fit of anger, Patian killed all of them and destroyed more than half of the beach to vent his anger. Originally, he had planned to go to the bottom of the sea to find out more about the situation, but he was afraid that he would fall into the enemy's trap, so he could only give up. Patian, who had rushed back to the land of evil demons, had been gloomy and silent since he returned. At this time, the dark-skinned man had also found out that his third brother and the others had all died. This fact made him angry and hateful. He couldn't understand who had the strength to kill third brother and the others. In order to save the one family head as soon as possible, they had brought along the most powerful elites. Now, they had suffered heavy losses. How could he not feel heartache? At this moment, he even hated the head of the Wen family. If it wasn't for the fact that he had to save him, how could the brothers who had followed him through life and death for so many years have fallen in the endless ocean? Not even their corpses could be found. It was too hateful. He had to avenge his dead brothers, so everyone in this house was dead. At this moment, Uncle Long and the great elder in the main residence of the Lung family had already known about this. The great elder couldn't help sighing, "Vent your anger." He was definitely taking his anger out on them. That old man was afraid that he couldn't defeat the great demon Patian, so he could only vent his anger on the little minions around him. You should be happy now. When the great elder said this, he was actually envious in his heart, because he also wanted to be like the Ning family's old man and start a massacre on those people outside. Unfortunately, there was a heaven breaker outside, and they did not have enough confidence to defeat that old thing, so they did not dare to act rashly. Uncle Long, Patian has lost so many of his subordinates, and now he only has 3 people with him. Do you think we should take this opportunity to attack? First elder suggested after some thought. Although there are only 3 people outside, there are 2 hierarch experts. I can only hold Patian back at most. We don't know the strength of the other hierarch expert, so I really don't have enough confidence to defeat them. Moreover, so many of their people have died. If more helpers come here, we will be in a passive position. Uncle Long said calmly. In fact, there was another reason why he did not dare to leave the house. Shui was in seclusion, and none of them could control the defensive array. Once one of them left the house, it would definitely give the opponent an opportunity. Once a hole appeared in the array, it would be easier for the opponent to crack it. Therefore, he could not and did not dare to let the people in the house take the risk. Let's wait. Uncle Long glanced at the first elder, who had a conflicted look on his face, and consoled him. Why wouldn't he want to go out and have a good fight with his opponent? However, he couldn't let anyone out before he had absolute confidence. And the great elder nodded helplessly. He knew that Uncle Long was right. Help me thank the Ning family's boy. Uncle Long suddenly changed the topic and went back to his room. Just like that, the days continued. Just as Uncle Long had expected, a few days later, many people came to the heaven-crushing sect. Looking through the light screen at the black mass of people's heads outside the house, First Elder said with a headache, "How many people are there on the other side?" "At least 100 people. It seems that the death of Potion's subordinates a few days ago has angered him, so I guess he has gathered all his men. However, the strength of these people is obviously much worse than those before." Uncle Long calmly analyzed. At this time, he received a voice transmission from the beasts in the Endless Sea, saying that someone had gone to the Endless Sea to cause trouble again. However, they were prepared this time, so the other party had returned without success. After carefully warning the beasts in the Endless Sea to be more careful, Uncle Long temporarily put aside his attention on the Endless Sea. After all, the situation here was more critical. Within the dream dust space, Lung Ruakshu's situation was not looking good either. Inside, she was trying her best to refine the origin of chaos. At this moment, her clothes had long been stained with blood, and her originally tender and white skin had tiny cracks and wrinkles. Her face was pale, and this was only her appearance. The evildoer who had been watching her knew very well that Shui Er's refinement had reached the most critical moment. The domineering origin of chaos had already manifested in her body. Shui Er's soul would definitely feel even worse. But now he could not help her. Shui Er could only rely on herself, because this was a test from the origin of chaos. In reality, it was just as the demon had predicted. At this moment, Lung Ruashua felt as though she was in a sea of fire. Her entire body was about to be roasted dry by the fire. Even though she did not know what was going on, there was a voice in her heart that kept telling her to persevere. After the scorching heat, Lung Ruashua felt cold again. It wasn't an ordinary cold, but a bone-chilling cold, the kind of cold that chilled the heart. It didn't take long for Lung Ruashua to realize that her soul was almost frozen. At this time, her body also began to shiver, and her clothes were quickly soaked by the cold air. After enduring the cold, dozens of bolts of lightning as thick as fingers struck her weak body. Damn it! What the hell is this? Lung Ruashua was so angry that she wanted to curse. However, in the end, she held it in. Her unyielding character made her want to compete with the lightning. After all, she was no stranger to lightning. However, these lightning bolts seemed to be playing hide-and-seek with her. Every time Lung Ruashua wanted to challenge them, they would all hide. And when Lung Ruashua didn't want to bother with them, they would come out of nowhere to tease her. Chapter 1963. You Two Are Friends 1. Her beautiful eyes stared at the mischievous lightning without a change in expression. Lung Ruakshu's heart was depressed for a moment. In fact, she, who was in seclusion, had no idea what was going on. In order to concentrate on her closed-door cultivation, she had sealed off all her senses. Therefore, other than occasionally using her divine sense to check on the situation within her body, it could be said that she was completely unaware of the movements of the wind and grass outside. However, just as she was trying her best to absorb spiritual energy and preparing to break through, she suddenly felt that the spiritual energy seemed to be somewhat lacking. Immediately after, a milky white ball ran into her body, and she immediately felt that the spiritual energy in her body was filled to the brim. Even though Lung Ruashua was not sure what the milky white ball was, it was a good thing that it could replenish her spiritual energy. However, after the milky white ball had circulated a few times in her body, not only did it occupy her dantian, but it had also absorbed all the divine energy that she had painstakingly stored in her dantian. Lung Ruashua was instantly enraged. Was this thing here to help her or to rob her? At the same time, there was a voice in the depths of her heart telling her that she had to defeat this milky white ball. Since she had to defeat it, Lung Ruashua naturally treated the mysterious ball as her enemy. It was also because of this that the battle between the human and the ball in her dantian began. After a long while, just as Lung Ruashua felt the light of victory, the milky white ball changed its playstyle. It was the same fire, ice, lightning, and so on that she felt now. And now, Lung Ruashua was being toyed with by the lightning. Those lightning bolts that were as thick as a finger were as cunning as slippery fish. You couldn't catch them, and when you didn't catch them, they would angrily sway in front of you. Lung Ruashua could even see the disdainful expressions in the lightning bolts. This fact made her feel extremely conflicted. But very quickly, Lung Ruashua calmed down. After she calmed down, she focused her astral body into her dantian and ignored the mischievous lightning. When the lightning saw this, it looked at each other as if it had a life of its own. Then, it started to circle around Lung Ruashua. Actually, even though Lung Ruashua didn't pay any attention to them, she had been secretly using her divine sense to observe them. Hence, after seeing their reaction, Lung Ruashua was extremely puzzled. Why didn't the lightning attack her like the fire and ice before? Instead, it was like a naughty child playing with her. However, she was not in the mood to play hide-and-seek with them. She still had to defeat the ball that had somehow entered her body. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxu's expression became even more unmoved, and she even ignored their teasing. The lightning bolts circled around Lung Ruoxu a few times, but when they realized that she had no reaction, they felt a little dejected. Some of the lightning bolts even dimmed down. At this moment, Lung Ruoxu seized the opportunity and attacked instantly. In an instant, a white web of light enveloped the lightning around her. Lung Ruoxu finally smiled when she saw this. "You cunning little things, I've finally caught you," Lung Ruoxu mumbled to herself. However, the lightning within the light net started to look down on her even more. "Yo, you still dare to look down on me?" Lung Ruoxu was exasperated. These lightning bolts were too vivid. It was as if they had a mind of their own. At the thought of this, she couldn't help but stretch out a slender finger and touch the light net. She gently poked at the lightning bolt's bodies and grabbed a small lightning bolt in her hand. However, the lightning bolt that Lung Ruoxu had caught was not afraid of her at all. In fact, it was rather calm and allowed her to do whatever she wanted. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxu became even more puzzled. However, she didn't have much time to think about it. The lightning that she had covered in the net of light disappeared mysteriously and was replaced by bursts of green whirlwinds. There was a wind in each of the green whirlwinds. The whirlwinds were about half the height of a person, and they whistled from a distance. Around the whirlwinds, there were wind blades that flashed with a dazzling white light. Lung Ruoxu's heart shuddered when she saw this. "Oh my God, what the hell is this? Who could kindly tell her what was going on?" She had only gone into seclusion. How did she draw out these things? Lung Ruoxu was extremely depressed. However, looking at the whirlwind that was right in front of her, she did not dare to let her guard down. Even though the lightning did not attack her earlier, she did not know if the wind would convulse. Before the whirlwind arrived, Lung Ruoxu had already made preparations to attack at any moment. However, to her surprise, the wind blades around the whirlwind did not charge towards her. Instead, the whirlwind surrounded her. Then, her body started to shake like leaves in the wind. Damn it, was he trying to blow her away? Lung Ruoxu tried her best to control her balance. Immediately after, she made her move. Two identical wind blades struck the center of the whirlwind. However, in the next second, Lung Ruoxu's wind blades were absorbed by the whirlwind. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxu knew that using wind-type divine power to deal with these whirlwinds would not be very effective. Then, fire, water, light, dark, earth, and all the other divine skills she had were thrown out by her. After the whirlwinds gently absorbed her divine skills, they disappeared. Instantly, Lung Ruoxu was dumbfounded. What was the meaning of this? Were those whirlwinds here for a meal? Thinking back to her earlier performance, no matter how Lung Ruoxu thought about it, she felt that she was just delivering food to those whirlwinds. However, it was a good thing that they had disappeared. Otherwise, he really did not know what to do with them. But just as Lung Ruoxu's mood was starting to relax, the yellow sand once again rushed towards her. This time, Lung Ruoxu really wanted to curse. However, the surging yellow sand did not give her the chance to curse. She was instantly drowned in it. As for Lung Ruoxu, she felt as though she was a lonely boat floating on the sea, drifting alone on the surface of the sea. What Lung Ruoxu's spirit was experiencing was a test from the origin of chaos. Some of them did not seem to cause any harm, but they were actually direct attacks on her spirit. However, Lung Ruoxu's spirit was extremely strong. Hence, she did not have much of a reaction to those soul attacks. On the other hand, she felt endless pain from those attacks on her body. This was enough to show that her body was still very weak. After a long time, the trial of the origin of chaos had finally ended. At this moment, Lung Ruoxu's spirit had returned to its previous stable state. However, her external body was suddenly enveloped by a cocoon of light. The evildoer who had been standing guard by Lung Ruoxu's side was elated when he saw this. The nervous expression on his face had also completely relaxed. Only the heavens knew how worried he was after everything that Shue had just experienced, especially when he saw the blood oozing out of Shue's body. His heart felt as if it was being twisted by a knife. If he could, he really wanted to take Shue's place and bear all of this. Unfortunately, Shue could only bear this alone. Chapter 1964. You two are friends, too, but now that he saw this cocoon of light, he could finally put his heart at ease. This meant that the origin of chaos had acknowledged Shue as its master, and at this time, the origin of chaos was helping Shue transform her body. All he could do now was to wait patiently. I was right. Little Master will definitely succeed. Suddenly, a voice with a hint of laughter rang out in the quiet room. When the demon heard this voice, he immediately glared at the person who spoke. You still dare to say that? Do you know how dangerous it was just now? Don't I have you? Don't tell me you're going to watch as something happens to my little master. Huanshan said. In fact, if it weren't for this demonic man, he wouldn't have dared to hand over the origin of chaos to his little master. But now it seemed that his decision was right. His little master's willpower was beyond anyone's reach. The evildoer was even angrier when he heard this. He could tell that this fellow had him in the palm of his hand. However, Huanshan was right. He couldn't let anything happen to Shue. However, there was a limit to what he could do to help Shue. Shue had to rely on herself. Calm down. Isn't it the end of the suffering and the end of the joy? With the assistance of the primal chaos source, Master's future training will be very fast. Huanshan didn't want to be remembered by this demon, so he quickly calmed his anger. Otherwise, he wouldn't have a good life in the future. How's the baby? Glaring at Huanshan, the demon asked about the baby's condition. That little guy, he was still trying hard to gnaw on Jingshi. You don't know. As it gnawed on those crystals, its face revealed a pained expression. Haha, that's so funny. Huanshan laughed as he spoke. Clearly, he was treating this as a joke. Aren't you afraid ITLL come after you? Hearing Huanshan's gloating laughter, the demon indifferently warned. Of course I'm not. Huanshan was taken aback for a moment before he spoke. In fact, he was really a little afraid. However, he couldn't say this out loud. Otherwise, this demonic man would definitely laugh at him. It's good that you're not afraid, the demon said with a faint smile. After he finished speaking, the evildoer focused his attention on Lung Ruoxue and ignored Huanshan. Seeing this, Huanshan could only leave the room. He didn't know that he had unintentionally offended two vengeful people. Therefore, he was destined to live a miserable life in the future. After Huanshan left, he went to see the baby as usual and left enough crystals for it. Under the baby's resentful eyes, he strode out of the room. 3 days later, the light cocoon around Lung Ruoxue's body was completely absorbed by her, and she finally woke up. Lung Ruoxue was extremely surprised when she felt the abundant amount of divine power in her body. She had actually broken through. Furthermore, her breakthrough this time seemed very easy and calm. It was wrong. This advancement was very abnormal. Lung Ruo suddenly remembered that she was originally trying to break through the barrier to the next realm. However, she seemed to have been disturbed by a milky white ball that suddenly ran into her body. After that, she encountered a series of strange things. Following that, she felt as if she had returned to her mother's embrace. That gentle and soft feeling was simply too wonderful, so wonderful that she didn't want to wake up at all. Shue, seeing that Lung Ruoxue was in a daze, the demon walked to her side and naturally pulled her into his arms as he called out softly. Freak! Lung Ruoxue had a stomach full of question marks, but she did not know who to ask. You've already refined the origin of chaos, so it's time to let you know some things. The demon said with a serious expression. What is it? Lung Ruoxue asked nervously. Also, what was the origin of chaos? Seeing the serious expression on the handsome face of the evildoer, she actually felt a little scared. It's about your master, and it's about me. The demon thought for a moment and looked at Lung Ruoxue worriedly. He did not know if Shue would be angry. Oh, Lung Ruoxue nodded. Her reaction to the evildoer's words was very calm. In reality, she didn't know how to react because she was very clear that the evildoer was hiding something from her. However, what did her master's matter have to do with the evildoer? This was something she didn't understand. That's your reaction? Hearing Lung Ruoxue's "oh," the demon was speechless. Shui's reaction was a little too much. It was not what he was thinking. What else? Lung Ruoxue asked with an evil smile. Actually, she also felt that she had been too calm, but she had no choice. Ever since she met her senior brother, she had guessed that someone would tell her about her master sooner or later. Therefore, she had already prepared herself mentally. It was just that she didn't expect that the person who mentioned her master to her would actually be a demon. "All right, I'm making a fuss," the demon said in a slightly aggrieved manner. He then called out to the void, "See Huanshan, Shui has woken up. Hurry up and come out. I'm coming." Just as evildoer finished speaking, Huanshan's snow-white figure appeared in the room. "Master, Huanshan missed you so much." After seeing Lung Ruoxue, Huanshan wanted to hug her again, but he was kicked away by the demon. "You're so rough," Huanshan, who dodged the evildoer's chain kick, said with a look of disdain. Then he looked at Lung Ruoxue, then at the evildoer, and said with a smirk, "Evildoer, I actually quite admire you. You can still hold on to Master in her current state." At this moment, Lung Ruoxue was covered in dirt. The blood on her clothes had long dried up and had turned into a dark purple lump that had solidified on her clothes. Not only that, there were also some dark gray stains on her exposed skin. In short, the current Lung Ruoxue looked a little too horrible to look at. After hearing Huanshan's words, the demon didn't care at all. However, Lung Ruoxue lowered her head and looked at her own body. Then, she let out an "ah" and disappeared from her spot. "You did it on purpose." The demon calmly stated this fact. "So what if I am doing this for your benefit?" Huanshan laughed, unafraid of death. "I will remember your good intentions today. I'll definitely repay you if I have the chance." The demon laughed nonchalantly. At this moment, there were no signs of anger in him. However, Huanshan knew very well that this fellow held a grudge. "There's no need to repay me." Huanshan's heart trembled, after which he said with a mischievous smile, "I must repay you." The demon was very stubborn. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue reappeared in the room, refreshed. After washing up, she was in a very good mood. Furthermore, she was surprised to find that after her inexplicable breakthrough, her physical condition had improved. Her skin was also more moist and crystal clear. Although her skin used to be as tender as cream and could be broken by a breath, it now seemed to be more crystal clear and unbelievably tender. It was as if water would come out with a touch. At this moment, she was like a person carved out of the most perfect crystal, making people unable to take their eyes off her. Chapter 1965, Your Friends 3, What Do You Want Me to Repay? Lung Ruoxue, who happened to hear these words when they returned to the room, asked curiously. "To repay his kindness, Shui, let this guy tell you about your master." The evildoer said with a gentle smile, You know my master?" Hearing the demon's words, Lung Ruoxue was even more curious. It seemed like there was more than one person who knew her master. "Of course I do." Huanshan's cheeky smile disappeared, and he said seriously, "Then can you tell me?" Lung Ruoxue looked at Huanshan with anticipation. "Master, don't worry, he'll tell you." Huanshan promised. Then, he took out a transparent crystal from somewhere and handed it to Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue received the crystal with a face full of question marks. Then, she looked at illusion dust, not understanding what was going on. At this moment, the transparent crystal in Lung Ruoxue's hand suddenly burst out with a strong light. Following that, an illusionary figure appeared in front of the three of them with a smile. "Master!" Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she stared at the not-so-solid figure and called out softly. That figure was none other than her incomparably handsome and noble master, you. "Master, I finally have the chance to see you again." Huanshan's eyes were filled with tears as he looked at you with excitement. Hearing Huan Qin's words, Lung Ruoxue turned to look at him. Her heart was filled with question marks. She knew that the master that Huan Qin was referring to was definitely his previous master. However, wasn't his previous master the God Lord who had already fallen from the God world? Why did he call his master? At this moment, Lung Ruoxue had yet to make the connection between her master and the owner of fantasy dust. Hence, her beautiful face was filled with confusion. Schwerer, I'm both your master and the previous owner of dream dust. You should be able to guess my identity by now. You smiled. The first time he saw Lung Ruoxue, she was still a little child. Now that he saw her growing up, he was very pleased. You're a divine master? Lung Ruoxue was a little dumbfounded. She had never thought that her master would be a divine master. Even though Qing Ju had always told her how powerful her master was, she had never thought of it in that way. Yes, but I've already fallen. The me you see now is just a trace of consciousness I left behind. You said with a faint smile. He then continued, Shue, you've already refined the origin of chaos. From now on, the divine world is in your hands. I don't want to. The divine realm is Master S. Don't even think about escaping responsibility. I won't carry this huge burden for you. When Lung Ruoxue heard her master's words, she immediately objected vehemently. Even though she wasn't sure what the origin of chaos was and what it had to do with the God world, she didn't want to accept her master's words, even though the truth was that her master had already passed away. But she just didn't want to accept it. Shue, silly girl. Since you became my disciple and the master of the universal bracelet, everything was already destined. Moreover, you are the master recognized by the origin of chaos, so everything in the divine world is naturally related to you. You can't get rid of it. You sighed. The one who wants to get rid of all this is master, not me. Lung Ruoxue said, a little upset. As long as she thought about how her master was here to say his last words, her heart would feel as if it was being cut by a knife. Although she had not spent much time with this cheap master, her master had loved her like a daughter. So, she was not willing to see her master disappear forever. Silly girl, master has already fallen long ago. Of master's 3 disciples, only you have the chaotic body, so master can only place this heavy burden on you. I hope you don't disappoint master. You said in a heavy tone. Master. Hearing her master say this, Lung Ruoxue didn't know how to rebut. More importantly, she was afraid that her master would be sad, but she didn't want her master to disappear forever. Little girl, you won't let master down, right? You saw Lung Ruoxue's dilemma and pressed on while the iron was hot. Of course, I don't want to disappoint master. However, the divine world already has a divine master. Thus, I don't need to worry about it. Right now, I only want to know how to save master. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. As far as she knew, the current divine master of the divine world was her master's younger sister. Therefore, she couldn't understand why her master would say such things since the divine world was managed by someone. Could it be that they were siblings who didn't get along? Lung Ruoxue made wild guesses. In reality, she could tell a thing or two from Huan Qin's attitude towards the divine master. However, at that time, she had not known that her master was the previous divine master of the divine world, so she naturally did not care about her master's feelings and could make wild guesses. But now, she did not want to think that way. Shue, Lung Ruoxue's words made Yes' heart soften. He then said, only those who have been acknowledged by the origin of chaos and possess the universal bracelet can become the true master of the divine world. Wu Ling doesn't have the chaotic body, so she can't become the true master of the divine world. Only you are qualified. But Lung Ruoxue was a little hesitant. Actually, she wanted to ask, the current god master of the god world is your sister. If I accept master's dying wish, wouldn't I become that woman's enemy? Although the two of them already had some conflicts, it was not to the point where they would fight to the death. More importantly, if she didn't know the relationship between that woman and her master, she wouldn't have any pressure dealing with her. But now, she was a little conflicted. Schwerer, you don't have to worry about the Miwu miasma. She's not the rightful divine master, and the rules of heaven and earth won't acknowledge her. Furthermore, you could see the doubt in Lung Ruoxu's heart and explained. However, he did not finish his sentence. As for the other things, he would let others tell Shui. He found it hard to say. The timing he had arranged had not really come. In fact, he had appeared a little too early. Seeing that her master seemed to be hiding something, Lung Ruoxue was understanding and did not continue the topic. She changed the topic and said, "Master, is there any way to save you? Tell me." "There is no other way. Shui, Master's soul has already dispersed and disappeared from this world a long time ago. However, Master is quite gratified to see your growth now. The only pity is that Master won't be able to see you become a true expert, but Master believes that you won't let Master down. Master will give you his blessings," he said with a smile. Then he turned to look at the evildoer and said, "You have to treat my disciple well. You're not allowed to bully her." "I don't need you to say that," the demon said in a bad mood when he heard yes words. "Of course I have to say it. I'm Shui Air's master. However, now that you've become my disciple's man, shouldn't you also call me master? Come, let's hear you call me master." You laughed evilly, his face full of pride after taking advantage of her. "Keep daydreaming." The demon rolled his eyes and said in an angry tone. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she widened her eyes in disbelief. What was going on? Did she hear it wrong? Master seemed to be taking advantage of the demon. At this moment, even if she was slow to react, she could tell that the two of them were old acquaintances. However, now was not the time to ask about this. Yu Iran's smile was gentle when he heard the demon's words. However, he turned to Lung Ruoxue and said, "Shui, this guy is too disrespectful to your master. Why don't we change to another one? There were so many good men. Let's have another good fight." Her master's words made Lung Ruoxue break out in cold sweat. She thought to herself, "Master, you're so bold. You dare to say this, but I don't dare to be your disciple." If she dared to have such a thought, the demon would definitely kill her. Of course, he wasn't going to kill her. Therefore, for the safety of all the men in the world, she must be firm in her heart. In this life, in the next life, in all lives, she would not want anyone else except for the evildoer. And master, other than leaving your last words, shouldn't you also answer your doubts? To this day, she still did not know what the origin of chaos was. There were still many things that her master did not explain clearly, so she was still confused. However, the evildoer's sinister gaze made Lung Ruoxue swallow all her questions. She would ask Huanshen when she had the chance. Since his master was his previous master, he must know everything about his master. Qingju should know as well, even though he had not fully recovered his memory. And now, the air pressure in the room was extremely low. The cold wind was blowing, causing Lung Ruoxue to involuntarily distance herself from the center of the storm. Retreating with her was the equally frightened Huanshen. Lung Ruoxue did not know how to describe the scene as she looked at the demon and her master, who were in a confrontation. Even though her master was just a strand of consciousness, the pressure from her master was still very strong. What was even rarer was that the demon's aura was not any weaker than her masteress. At this moment, she was curious about the demon's identity. However, no one was willing to answer her question now. Just like that, evildoer and Imperial exchanged glances with each other. The crackling of electricity seemed to flash between the two of them. Neither of them was willing to admit defeat first. After a long time, the two of them suddenly looked at each other and smiled. Then, they hugged each other. This dramatic scene made Lung Ruoxue dumbfounded once again. What was going on? Lung Ruoxue felt that this was the sentence that she had been saying the most in her heart today. "You guys are friends?" Lung Ruoxue held it in and finally asked the question in her heart. Chapter 1966. The Identity of a Monster 1. Who's friends with him? Upon hearing this, the two of them who were originally hugging each other immediately jumped away reflexively. The evildoer even said directly without holding back, "Yes, we're not friends. We are enemies." You said with a smile. The relationship between you two is really strange. Their conversation left Lung Ruoxue at a loss for words. Enemy? Do they look like one? He didn't see it anyway. It's not strange at all. We just hate each other. The evildoer said hurriedly. Then he walked to Lung Ruoxue's side and pulled her into his arms. He hugged her tightly, as if he was afraid that someone would snatch her away. Lung Ruoxue didn't know whether to laugh or cry at the evildoer's childish behavior. Yes, eyes were wide open. Was this the guy he knew? His disciple was still the most charming. You couldn't help but think to himself. At the thought of this, you smiled at Lung Ruoxue and said, "Shui, come to Master. Master has a few secrets to tell you." What? Lung Ruoxue looked at you in surprise, then at the displeased evildoer. She did not make a move immediately. When you saw this, he was greatly disappointed and shouted exaggeratedly, "It's really true that a grown woman can't be kept at home." His master's words were not as useful as a look from this brat. "AI, I'm sad. Stop acting. Shui, or you go. That guy's mouth can't spit out ivory. You could just listen. You don't have to take it to heart." The evildoer retaliated. Then, he unwillingly let go of Lung Ruoxue's hand. Lung Ruoxue looked at the evildoer and smiled. Then, she walked to you and asked, "Master, what do you have to tell me?" "AI, swear, I didn't expect you to be taken so soon. I originally wanted to keep the good stuff in the field of others. But now, it seems that we can't keep him here." You looked at Lung Ruoxue and sighed. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, her forehead was filled with black lines. She said, "Master, is this the secret you wanted to tell me?" "Of course not. I just said it out of my own feelings. Shui, I know that you're under a lot of pressure when I hand the divine realm over to you. However, I can't find anyone else more suitable than you. So, please forgive my selfishness. As for Wu Jing, if she, you don't have to worry too much about her. Just do what you need to do. No matter what you do, I will always support you. And that guy, he will definitely help you. With him by your side, Master will be more assured. Although we have been at odds with each other since the day I met him, Master knows that he is the person most worthy of Master's trust. However, you can't tell him this, otherwise he will be proud." You continued, "Shui, Master is very happy to see your cultivation. Master is also very proud to have such an excellent disciple like you. Originally, I wanted to tell you more things, but there are some things that I can't say in front of you. The two of them will tell you everything. You still couldn't say it. As for my other two disciples and those subordinates who were once loyal to me, if you have the chance, you must find a way to contact them. In fact, I know very well that after my death, their days will definitely not be good. Shui, he'll leave everything to you. I'm a useless master and a lousy divine master. I hope you can do better than Master. Master will bless you forever." Yu Yin continued to speak with his senses, his clear black eyes welling up with tears. However, he resisted the urge to let the water fall. "Master, I've already seen eldest senior brother, but there's still no news of second senior brother. Eldest senior brother has already gone to look for him." When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she hurriedly said, "That's good. That's good." Yu Yin said, in truth, he felt a lot of guilt towards his own disciples and subordinates. Unfortunately, he couldn't help him at all right now. He could only count on Shui. Although this was a little irresponsible, he had no other choice. "Shui, it's about time. Master should leave." You finally said after staring at Shui, for a long time. "Master." When Lung Ruoxue heard yes words, tears immediately welled up in her beautiful eyes. She had heard these familiar words a few years ago, but now she was going to experience the life and death separation with her master again. Her heart was in extreme pain. Soon after, Lung Ruoxue watched as Yes' figure slowly disappeared from the three of them. After you had completely disappeared, tears began to stream down her face. "Shui, don't be sad. He died many years ago, and what you're seeing now is just a wisp of his consciousness left behind. It can't be considered him." The evildoer pulled Lung Ruoxue into his embrace and consoled her with heartache. However, in his heart, he could not help but curse her to death. Damn bastard, making Shui sad again. If that guy hadn't disappeared long ago, he definitely wouldn't have let that annoying man go. I know. Lung Ruoxue stopped her tears and sobbed. Then she turned to Huan Shun and asked, Huan Shun, you should know what happened back then. When Huan Shun heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he glanced at the evildoer before nodding his head. However, I only know a part of it. As for what the old master has planned, I'm not very sure. Then tell me what you know first. Lung Ruoxue ordered. All right, it all started from hundreds of thousands of years ago. At that time, the divine world was extremely beautiful and the spiritual qi was abundant. It was incomparable to what it was now. Moreover, although the human race and the beast race were not very harmonious at that time, the relationship between the two races was definitely much stronger than it was now. Unfortunately, later on, the old master's younger sister, Wu Yin, became ambitious and wanted to replace the old master. Therefore, she contacted many traders among the old master's subordinates and set up a plan tens of thousands of years later. Finally, they took advantage of the old master's seclusion to launch a rebellion. In the end, the old master fell at their hands. Huan Shan said with a sorrowful expression, Isn't master a divine master? How could he have died so easily? And where were master's subordinates and two senior brothers at that time? Could it be that they're just going to watch as something happens to master? From Huan Chen's words, Lung Ruoxue could tell that there were many loopholes. Hence, she could not help but ask. The old master was injured at that time and had been in seclusion the entire time. As for his two disciples and subordinates, they were all defeated one by one, so they had no way of rescuing the old master. In that turmoil hundreds of thousands of years ago, many humans and magical beasts betrayed the human race, and almost all of those races had a secret relationship with the old master. After that, the subordinates who were loyal to the old master either died or were sealed. In short, it was a tragic event. Huan Shun said as he recalled. A pained expression gradually appeared on his face. Chapter 1967. The Identity of a Monster, 2. How did Master get injured? Could it be that Master didn't have any premonition before the rebellion? Lung Ruoxue continued to ask. Her master was a god master, and everything in the god world should be within her control. How could such a thing happen? She really could not understand. The old master was injured because Huan Qin glanced at the demon and did not continue. At this moment, the demon continued. That guy was injured because we had a competition just now. At that time, we were all injured and in seclusion. However, when I found out about this, the dust had already settled in the divine world. That woman also calls herself the master of the divine realm. However, with our injuries at the time, dealing with a few rebellions was not a problem at all. And the reason why it was all because of that damned woman. Then, the demon gritted his teeth and said, after hearing the demon's words, Dream Dust fell silent. What's going on? Can't you guys explain it clearly? Lung Ruoxue asked anxiously as she felt that something was amiss. The reason why the mist ripple was successful was because the old master treated her as his own sister. After a long while, Huan Chun said, what was the meaning of this? Could it be that Wu Xian isn't Master's biological younger sister? Lung Ruoxue was confused. Of course not. That woman is a thief. How could she be a sister? The demon said hurriedly. Can you make yourselves clear? Lung Ruoxue was very anxious. Why did it take so much effort for these two men to talk? Schwerer, before the creation of the heaven and earth, the world was in chaos. You and I were both born from chaos. However, we were born from different sources of chaos. The source of chaos that gave birth to me contained the element of darkness. Therefore, my body was mainly filled with dark energy. As for you, the source of chaos that gave birth to him was mainly filled with the element of light. He is the master of the divine realm, while I am the master of the nine nether prison. The world calls me the Dark Lord. He was in charge of the living, while I was in charge of the souls. As such, although our identities seemed to be opposing, we were inseparable. However, in the eyes of the world, we were enemies. But in reality, we really can't be considered, and we're not friends." The demon finally opened his mouth to explain. This was also the first time he had revealed his identity to Shui. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she widened her eyes as he had wished. Her beautiful face was filled with disbelief. The evildoer's identity was too unexpected. Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but sigh. Originally, she had guessed that the evildoer might be Master's subordinate. Moreover, she was both a friend and a master. Now that he thought about it, it was a good thing she didn't say her guess. Otherwise, the demon would be furious. What was even more unexpected to her was that the origin of chaos was actually the mother of the evildoers and her master. No wonder they regarded the origin of chaos as so important. Seeing Lung Ruoxue's shock, the demon continued, "Although we never acknowledged each other as our friends, at that time, the person we trusted the most was her. As for that woman, you did love her a lot and treated her as his only family. But unfortunately, that woman was an ingrate. When she was pregnant, she stole that idiot yes energy. In the end, you died in the hands of that woman. You're really not just stupid." When the evildoer said this, his face was filled with an expression of gritting his teeth. However, Lung Ruoxue clearly didn't understand the demon's words. What did he mean by stealing Master's energy? Could energy be stolen? Seeing Lung Ruoxue's confusion, the demon continued to explain, "Shui, although that idiot and I are both born from chaos, we are independent and opposing individuals. Therefore, we can only live in two different worlds. When I was just born, I was cold and liked to be alone. I didn't care if there was anyone by my side. That guy couldn't stand loneliness. At that time, a seed from nowhere took root beside you and stole his energy to grow. You should have killed the seed, but he was too soft-hearted and left this disaster behind. That seed is the current Wu Yin, so the two of them call each other brother and sister. However, that idiot regarded Wu Yin as her only family member, but Wu Yin only thought that you was her biggest obstacle to her domination of the divine world. After many years of planning, she finally succeeded. Actually, I've warned him many times to be careful of that woman, Wu Yin. Unfortunately, he turned a deaf ear to all of it and died in the hands of that woman in the end." The demon's face was filled with an expression of disappointment. The old master is just too sentimental. When Huan Chun heard the evildoer's words, he couldn't help but defend you. Although he sometimes hated that woman for not knowing what was good for her, he never thought that this was his master's fault. My ass, that woman was a thief. To be so devoted to a thief who had stolen her things was not foolish, but stupid. Otherwise, how could he have died in the hands of that woman? If he had hardened his heart and killed that woman earlier, how could all this have happened? Huan Chen's words caused a huge reaction from the demon. He had been holding back for many years because of this, but he had never had the chance to vent. "Shui, there's one more thing that I have to let you know. In fact, after the rebellion, that idiot had a chance to kill the thief. Although he was injured at the time, it was not a problem for him to deal with that woman. Unfortunately, he couldn't do it, so he died in the hands of that woman." The reason why he didn't dare to tell you these things just now wasn't because he didn't want to, but because he was too embarrassed to say it. However, even though he couldn't bear to kill that woman, he gave this mission to you, the demon said angrily. "The old master is just too sentimental," Huan Chen explained in a low voice. Yup, he valued relationships. He valued that bitch's relationship. He treated that thief as his own family. But in the end, he caused his own disciple and subordinates to be played in the palm of that woman's hand, their life and death unknown. Is this what you call being sentimental? Huan Chen's words caused the demon to roar at the top of his lungs. When Lung Ruoxue saw how agitated the evildoer was, she didn't know how to console him. She knew very well that the evildoer was infuriated by her master's avoidance. Although she was a little angry with her master after hearing this, she was still her master after all. She really couldn't say anything. After Huan Chun heard this, he fell silent. Although the old master had done something wrong in some areas, after the incident, he had done his best to arrange a way out for his disciples and subordinates. As a result, the old master's old subordinates who had fallen into the hands of the fog ripple were not many, and those people were all quite stubborn, those who wanted to die with the old master. Chapter 1968. The Identity of a Monster. 3. If there were any, they would be sealed beasts. Seeing that the atmosphere had suddenly turned heavy, Lung Ruashue could only take the initiative to ask, "Freak, then why are you on the Edge Wind continent?" Actually, what she wanted to ask was, why did the evildoer appear by her side? Was this also Master's arrangement? I was entrusted by that idiot to protect his future disciple. Although that idiot was a good person, he had given up everything to pry into the secrets of heaven after the incident. He knew that this was a great calamity that was unavoidable. At the same time, he knew that the future of the divine world would depend on his unborn disciple. Therefore, he came to the netherworld realm with a wisp of his consciousness and begged me to protect his disciple. What's more, he only told me that his disciple would be born in the Lung family of the Kaltra continent, but he didn't tell me which generation it would be. Thus, I could only reincarnate again and again, just to find his disciple who had yet to be born. At this point, his devilishly handsome face couldn't help but reveal a bitter expression. In order to find Shue, he had really spent a lot of time and effort. Fortunately, he had finally found her. Reincarnated again and again? Then how many reincarnations have you reincarnated? Lung Ruashue was speechless. Wasn't this the mistress of the dark world? He was in charge of the world's powerful soul. So why did he need to reincarnate continuously to find someone? I can't remember. When I first met your ancestor, he was just a little kid in open crotch pants. After that, I gave the universal bracelet to him and had him pass it on from generation to generation. However, after so many years, there is still no one in the Lung family who had the chaotic body and could make the universal bracelet recognize him as its master. Thus, I could only continue to reincarnate and look for him. The demon smiled faintly. You've worked hard. After hearing the demon's words, Lung Ruakshu's forehead was covered with cold sweat. She didn't expect the demon to have seen the Lung family's ancestor in open crotch pants. No wonder he always smiled so strangely when he saw the ancestor. It's not hard at all. It's worth it to be able to find the woman I love, the demon said with a proud smile. But there's something I don't understand. You're not the mistress of the dark world, so why do you have to reincarnate again and again to find someone? His devilish and sensitive words made Lung Ruashue feel a little embarrassed. Her beautiful face flushed red, so she had no choice but to change the topic. I can't go to the lower realms as I please. The laws of heaven and earth are afraid that the lower realms won't be able to withstand my dark power and will be destroyed, so they restrict my freedom. I can only use the method of reincarnation, the demon said. Then his expression suddenly changed, and he started complaining. Shue, the heavens are really unfair. Why does that idiot have the right to go wherever he wants? And I can only stay in the 9 nether prison? If he wanted to go to other places to play, not only were there many restrictions, but he couldn't enjoy himself to his heart's content. That damn law of heaven and earth is even staring at me as if it's afraid that it'll destroy the whole world. In fact, I'm not that violent. Tell me, isn't the heavens being unfair to me? The demon's clear black eyes were like a puppy's as he stared at Lung Ruashue with anticipation. Yes, the heavens are so unfair to you. How can you be so right? You're too much. When Lung Ruashue saw his demonic and adorable expression, she immediately felt indignant. It is. In order to find you, I've suffered a lot. So, you have to compensate me. You're only allowed to love me in the future. The demon took the opportunity to raise his conditions, and a hint of slyness quickly flashed in the depths of his eyes. You are the only one I've ever loved, Lung Ruashue said helplessly. Then, she asked curiously, since you're the mistress of the dark world, why would a marquis of the Ling Wind continent be bullied by the Yi family? I didn't have my original memory when I was born. Later, Mu Li found me, and I recovered my memory. From then on, I was the one who bullied them, the demon said honestly. So that's how it is. You've really suffered. The evildoer's words made Lung Ruox's heart ache. Even though the evildoer did not tell her in detail about the circumstances of each reincarnation, she was very clear that those were definitely not good memories. All of this was for her. So, you have to compensate me well. Did you know? When I first saw you on the prismatic wind continent, I couldn't take my eyes off you. At that time, I had already recovered all my memories, so I was in disbelief. Although I don't really like women, I've seen many beautiful women, but none of them could move my heart. But the first time I saw you, I knew I wanted you. Later on, I found out that you were the owner of the universal bracelet and the person I was looking for. My thoughts became even stronger. I even thought that this might be the main reason why that idiot asked me to protect you. Now that I think about it, it seems very possible. The demon guessed. After all, that guy had peeked into the heavenly secret. However, now that he knew that everything might be within that idiot's calculations, he could only willingly jump into the well. First time seeing me? Was it when we were in the psychedelic forest? When Lung Ruoxue heard the evildoer's words, she suddenly wanted to know when the evildoer had fallen for her. Perhaps this was something every woman wanted to know. No, even earlier than that. The demon suddenly said in a mysterious tone, how come I didn't know about it? Lung Ruoxue's face was filled with question marks. She remembered very clearly that the psychedelic forest was the first time she had met the demon. At that time, we didn't really meet, and I only caught a glimpse of you. The evildoer said with a smile. His thoughts couldn't help but go back to that moment. At that time, Schwetter was like a curious baby. She was very curious about everything in the Big Dipper Wind continent, and his eyes couldn't help but follow her. Then, when exactly is it? Lung Ruoxue was very stubborn and wanted to ask for the exact time. Do you still remember the first time you left the general's mansion, went for a walk on the street, and bought a baby back? At that time, I was in a private room of a restaurant and happened to see you. The demon laughed, his eyes filled with deep affection. Hearing the demon's words, Lung Ruoxue finally remembered. No wonder she felt that someone was watching her in the dark. Now, it seemed like it was the demon. Freak, although you were initially entrusted by Master to look for me with such difficulty, I still have to thank you. Thank you for everything you've done for me. After thinking about it, Lung Ruoxue started to get emotional. Silly girl, even though I'm being entrusted by someone, if the person I'm looking for isn't you, I won't be by that person's side all day long. At most, when he's in danger, they'll help him and ensure that he grows up safely. So, everything I'm doing now is of my own free will. It has nothing to do with other people's trust. I hope you can understand. The demon said very seriously. He didn't want Schwetter to think that he was only good to her because of her stupid master. Understand? Lung Ruoxue laughed as she took the initiative to hug the demon. Now that she knew the identity of the demon and knew about her master, she felt that she had to work harder in her cultivation and strive to avenge her master as soon as possible. Although her master could let go of her sister, who she regarded as family, she would not allow anyone to live well after betraying her master. Therefore, she would never let that woman go. In fact, she was very clear that if that woman knew her identity and that she had the cosmic bangle and the origin of chaos, she would never let her go. Therefore, the most important thing for her now was to improve her strength and cultivate her own force. After all, that woman was now a divine master and had been in the divine world for many years. Her power was unfathomable. So, Lung Ruoxue knew that if she wanted to deal with that woman, she still had a lot to work on. She had already met her 2 senior brothers, Bing Yao. As long as the other one was still alive, she would definitely find him. As for her master's former subordinates, she could only decide based on the situation. After all, she did not know much about those people's situation. However, as long as they did not betray her master, she would definitely not treat them badly. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue once again turned her gaze to Huanchun. As an artifact spirit that had always followed by her master's side, Huanchun's understanding of her master's subordinates was definitely much better than hers and the demoness. Hence, he was the most suitable person to ask. Dream dust. Tell me about Master's subordinates. I want to know more about their situation. Lung Ruoshu asked with a smile. All right. Seeing that his little master had finally thought of him, Huan Chun was very pleased. When he saw her being so sweet with the devilish man, he thought that he would be forgotten. In fact, he was a little dissatisfied that the two of them had changed the topic as they talked. However, he was relieved to see that his little master was not charmed by the beauty. Then, Huan Chun seemed to have returned to the peaceful and beautiful divine realm hundreds of thousands of years ago. He slowly recalled, when the old master was the master of the divine master, he had many followers. Whether it was the human race or the beast race, there were many experts who were loyal to him. At that time, the beast god was the leader of the beast race, and most of the beast races, including the four king divine beast races, were loyal to the old master. Chapter 1969. You'll get used to it. 1. However, not all of the beasts are loyal. Some of them have been bribed by the mist to become her lackeys. It's precisely because they're disloyal that many beasts are caught off guard and fall for their tricks. Those magical beasts who were loyal to the old master have either died or been sealed. The current magical beasts are not as powerful as before. However, the strange thing is that many of the rebellious beasts are not completely under the control of the fog. Sometimes the fog can't even command them. I don't know what's going on. As he spoke, Huan Chun also felt strange. Isn't that obvious? The betraying beasts were ambitious. They would betray their own race for power and status, and Fog Ripple's power was obtained through improper means. They would naturally not be convinced by Fog Ripple, so they should only be in a cooperative relationship, and not a subordinate. Lung Ruoshua said after hearing Huan Chen's words. Shui Er's guess is right. No one is willing to be under someone else's control. The rhyme ice can't suppress them at all. After all, they all know that the rhyme ice can't really control the divine world. Naturally, there's no need for them to listen to that woman's words. However, on the surface, they seem to have a close relationship. However, as far as I know, there seem to be some disharmonious voices among the beast clans, especially the four great King Divine beast clans that used to be quite close. You should have seen it at the last elite gathering. They don't even care about each other, so their relationship has obviously deteriorated. The demon laughed. Well, I just don't know how far their relationship has gone. Lung Ruoshue was curious as well. Previously, she had wanted to get closer to the Qilin clan. However, there wasn't a suitable opportunity to do so, so she just let it be. Now, it seemed that if there was really a conflict between these beasts, she could make good use of it. There's no rush in the matter of the beast race. It's not easy for Fog to make them truly useful to us. The most important thing now is to find out the whereabouts of those stupid subordinates and what they are thinking now. The demon said after thinking for a while. Some of the old master's subordinates are still in the hands of the Fog. I'm not very clear about the whereabouts of the others. However, there are definitely people from the Fog in the 8 great divine regions. Therefore, shouldn't we eliminate the claws and fangs of the Fog first? Huan Chun suggested. There's no hurry to kill those dogs. I'm quite curious that you don't know the whereabouts of that stupid subordinate. Hearing Huan Chun's words, the evildoer asked in surprise. He thought that the idiot would explain his funeral. He didn't expect that Huan Chun, the artifact spirit who had always followed that idiot, also had many things he didn't know. I don't know. Huan Chun said with certainty. He only knew that a portion of the people were in the hands of the mist. As for the whereabouts of those who had escaped, the old master had not told him. It was probably to protect those people. In reality, you had indeed made arrangements for the whereabouts of most of his subordinates. However, it wasn't the time for them to meet Shui. He shouldn't have appeared at this time, but he didn't expect Huan Chun to meet Shui and recognize her as his master so early. Hence, his arrangements were disrupted. Originally, he had already sealed everything that happened in the past in the heaven-defying incantation. As long as Shui cultivated to the 9th level of the heaven-defying incantation, she would know everything. According to his plan, the elite competition would be about to begin by then. Huanshan would naturally meet Shui-Er and recognize her as his master. By then, Shui-Er's strength should have been almost at Reverend God level. After knowing everything, Shui-Er would be able to do more with less effort. He had also planned to show up at that time, but he did not expect the elite competition to be brought forward. Huanshan and Shui-Er had met earlier, and he had also appeared in front of Shui-Er earlier. At this moment, Shui-Er did not know everything. He could not say it in front of her, so he kept his mouth shut. He knew that even if he did not say anything, Huanshan and the demon would tell her something. More importantly, Shui-Er would know more details when she reached the 9th level of the heaven-defying art. However, he would probably not have the chance to appear again at that time. As for whether his former subordinates would be as loyal to him as they were to him, it would depend on Shui-Er's ability. After all, he had promised his subordinates that he would not force them to do anything. Naturally, he would not force them to acknowledge Shui-Er as their master. However, he had no intention of telling Lung Ruoxue about these things. This could be considered a test for his own disciple. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue naturally didn't know that when her master gave her the opportunity to contact his former subordinates, he had left her with a difficult problem. However, even if she knew, she wouldn't have much of a reaction. After all, if she was in her master's position, she would probably consider the same thing. One must know that if she didn't have any ability, even if her master had made arrangements for her, she would not be able to avenge her master. More importantly, she wasn't someone who only knew how to get what she wanted. Therefore, no matter what she did, she liked to achieve her goals with her own efforts. Avenging his master was no exception. What about the Dark Knight race? Lung Ruoxue thought for a moment before suddenly asking. They can't be considered old master's subordinates. In the past, the Dark Knight race was famous for their arrogance in the divine world. They didn't want to recognize anyone as their master, even if the other party was the divine master. However, their race had a close relationship with their old master and had received his grace before. Thus, they respected him very much, but they didn't truly recognize him as their master. Fog Ripple had also thought of targeting them. After all, the battle strength of the Dark Knight race was obvious to all in the immortal realm. But how could the Dark Knight race take a fancy to Wu Cheng? Those guys have very high standards, Huanshan said with a hint of gloating. So, most of the Knight race has been sealed. Even though she had never asked in you, she could guess that the seal on the Knight race had something to do with fog. Well, it's not strange that they were sealed. Fog Ice has taken extreme measures against people or beasts who are not used by it. This is also her usual method, Huanshan said. Lung Ruoxue nodded slightly and didn't continue on this topic. After all, it was a little too early to talk about this. Huanshan wasn't too sure about the whereabouts of her master's subordinates. Furthermore, she couldn't do everything in one go. If she wanted to avenge her master, she had to consider her own strength. The most important thing now was to work hard to improve her strength and cultivate her own forces. Of course, allies were also very important. Chapter 1970. You'll get used to it too. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue added, Huanshan, let's discuss this later. He'll go out and break through first. With that, Lung Ruoxue pulled the evildoer along and left the dream dust space. The two of them went straight into the bracelet. At that moment, Green Vessel, who was standing in front of the light screen with a long face and did not know what to do, immediately appeared in front of Lung Ruoxue when he felt the strangeness of the bracelet. He threw himself into Lung Ruoxue's arms with great enthusiasm and called out excitedly, Sister, you've finally come out of seclusion. Qingju was so happy. Now that his sister was out, he could finally put his heart at ease. Qingju, do you miss Big Sister? Qingju's unusual enthusiasm surprised Lung Ruoxue. She had also been in closed-door cultivation in the past, but she had never seen Qingju like this. I really wanna. Qingju nodded his head vigorously. Hee. Big Sister also misses Qingju, but Qingju, Big Sister has something important to do now. He'll come and chat with you later. Lung Ruoxue laughed as she coaxed. Sister, I also have something important to tell you. Qingju also said, although he did not want his sister to be troubled by such a terrible thing the moment she came out of seclusion, it was impossible for her not to know about it. Then Green Vessel will go first. Lung Ruoxua chuckled. Sister, there are people attacking us from outside. Qingju said bluntly. After he finished speaking, he even lowered his head, not daring to look at Lung Ruoxua. He felt that he was really too useless. He couldn't even settle such a small matter. Who is it? Lung Ruoxua's expression turned cold as she asked. Heaven breaking, Qingju said softly. Who's Patian? Lung Ruoxua didn't recognize this person at all, let alone have heard of him. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, he was a famous devil in the divinity. Moreover, everyone thought that he was dead. Who knew that he was still alive and even brought people to attack us? Qingju said gloomily. We don't have any conflicts with him, do we? Why is he attacking us? Lung Ruoxua asked in confusion. She tried her best to recall all the memories she had about Heaven Splitter. However, no matter how much she thought about it, she was certain that she did not know this person at all. He's here to save people. However, I don't know who he's trying to save because we've been staying in the house all this time, and no one has paid him any attention. Qingju explained. As long as you don't go out, you won't be in danger. Lung Ruoxua nodded. She was still very confident in the defensive formation she had set up. It was supposed to be like this, but he found a person who was proficient in formations from somewhere. Now, that guy has already solved nearly half of the Great Sky Guarding formation. If Big Sister doesn't come out of seclusion soon, this house will probably be broken into by them. Qingju could not help but remind him. The Divine Realm is really full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. I didn't think that there would be someone who could solve the Great Sky Guarding formation. I must meet this person. Lung Ruoxua was very interested when she heard Qingju's words. Sister, that person is definitely a genius in formations. If he wasn't our enemy, it would be a good choice to take him in for our use. Those who walk different paths cannot conspire together. Qingju's face was filled with regret. At the end of his speech, he even sighed like a little old man. Lung Ruoxua was amused when she heard this and could not help but pull him into her arms. However, she did not dare to kiss him. Otherwise, the demon would definitely fly into a rage. Qingju, don't worry about him for now. It's not that easy for him to break my sky guarding formation, so let him play by himself for a while. He'll go play with him after Sister is done with her work. Lung Ruoxua said after some thought. What's the important thing? Qingju's face was full of question marks. He could not understand. Could there be something more important than guarding the array that his sister had to do? I still have to find you to advance. Lung Ruoxua counted with her fingers. Big Sister's advancement this time is so peaceful. When he heard his sister mention advancement, Qingju immediately wilted. This was because his sister did not go into closed-door cultivation with him this time. This made him very disappointed. That damn dream dust. He was the one who snatched her sister away. Although he had not officially met Huan Chun, he secretly hated Huan Chun. Even if they were old friends, he wouldn't let them go if they dared to snatch his sister away from him. At the thought of this, Qingju subconsciously glanced at Lung Ruoxua. Then his eyes widened in disbelief. Chaos. Why was the origin of chaos in his sister's body? Could it be that the origin of chaos had already recognized a master? However, his sister's current strength should not be enough to make the origin of chaos recognize her as its master, right? What was going on? The prime essences of chaos have acknowledged you as their master? Qingju could not help but ask. Yes. Lung Ruoxua nodded. She was not surprised that Qingju could recognize the origin of chaos. After all, Qingju belonged to her master. Big Sister must have suffered a lot. Hearing Lung Ruoxua's affirmative answer, Qingju knew that his sister must have suffered a lot. After all, the origin of chaos was different from ordinary divine weapons. It was the origin of heaven and earth that had a higher status than him. How could it simply acknowledge a master? It's all right. Although this fellow tormented me quite a bit, he also gave me some benefits. Upon hearing her words, the origin of chaos that the family had placed in her dantian seemed to be very dissatisfied. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. It seemed like this fellow had a certain level of intelligence. However, this was normal. After all, he was the origin of chaos. If he could nurture a monster and a master, he was naturally not an ordinary person. Sister, isn't the origin of chaos angry at your words? Qingju asked curiously with an evil smile. In fact, the origin of chaos that he knew was very stingy. I'm a little angry, but it belongs to me now, so it naturally has to listen to me. If it dares to show its master any disrespect, it'll spank its butt. Lung Ruoxue purposely said in a vicious tone. Sister, I'm looking forward to you smacking its butt. Qingju said with a face full of anticipation. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. It was rare for the demon to agree. You'll have a chance to see it. Lung Ruoxue promised, but she couldn't help but think in her heart. Even if she wanted to hit the origin of chaos, but she had to first find out where it was. You guys continue chatting. I'll go and unseal the bracelet. Lung Ruoxue continued. With that, Lung Ruoxue disappeared. When they saw her running away faster than a rabbit, both Green Vessel and the demon could not help but laugh out loud. Shui already knows. The demon suddenly said to Qingju without thinking. What do you know? Qingju pretended to be calm as he asked. After Huanshan appeared, he had guessed that he would tell his sister some things. However, he did not know how much Huanshan would tell her. I almost know everything, the demon said simply. Hearing the demon's perfunctory reply, Qingju was a little angry. Can't you be more specific? Damn it, she knew that he was in a hurry, but she still acted like this. It was really too infuriating. Chapter 1971. You'll get used to it 3. She already knows the details. However, we're not too sure about the current situation of that stupid subordinate. The demon said indifferently. It was clear that he wanted to anger people to death. Damn it, don't call my old master an idiot. You're the idiot. Your whole family is an idiot. Qingju was already very angry, and after hearing the demon call his old master an idiot, he became even angrier. So without thinking, he cursed directly and even jumped 3 times high. He waved his small fists angrily, and that angry little look looked extremely cute. When the demon heard Qingju scolding him, he picked him up and looked him in the eye. That guy is an idiot. Even if you're protecting him, he's an idiot. You're a bully. Seeing that he couldn't win the argument or defeat the demon, Qingju cried out in desperation. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue, who had already unlocked the seal on the bracelet, heard Qingju's cries and quickly walked over. She hugged Qingju in her arms and coaxed him. Qingju, why are you crying? Who bullied you? This bad guy is bullying me. Qingju pointed at the demon as he complained. His little body was still twitching, and his cute pink face was red with anger. His bright teary eyes were also filled with anger. Qingju's words gave Lung Ruoxue a headache. In her opinion, even though the demon's possessiveness was very strong, he would not go so far as to bully a little kid like Qingju, right? After some thought, she looked at the evildoer helplessly. I didn't bully him. I only said that your master is an idiot. He started crying. You even said that my whole family is stupid. Does my family include you? Receiving Lung Ruoxue's gaze, the evildoer pretended to be confused, but in his heart, he could not help but laugh. Hearing the evildoer's half-teasing, Lung Ruoxue was speechless. She rolled her eyes at the evildoer and changed the topic. Green Vessel, look, the space has been upgraded again. Your favorite land has been expanded several times. Now you can plan a lot of good things again. Be happy. And Qingju responded softly, but he was not as excited as before. Qingju, you haven't told me what powers you've gotten after you broke the seal. Lung Ruoxue sighed and reminded him. This time, she had advanced to the 8th level of the heaven-defying art and was only 1 step away from the 9th level. However, she didn't know how long it would take for her to reach this level. After all, the amount of spiritual chi she needed was beyond the description of numbers. She had already reached the monarch god level. However, she still had to go out and advance to the monarch god level. Otherwise, he would not be able to enjoy the benefits bestowed by the laws of the world. However, he had to coax this little thing first. Shuttle. Qingju choked and replied softly. Shuttle? What do you mean by that? Lung Ruoxue did not understand. I can bring you anywhere, as long as you want to go. Qingju explained simply. Usually, only a reverent god can tear open space and travel to any plane. However, a reverent god is also limited in going to other planes. It's impossible for them to leave the divine world an infinite number of times. However, with this little thing's ability, you can go anywhere you want. The demon also explained. Really, I didn't expect Green Vessel to be so capable. Lung Ruoxue hugged Qingju tightly and said happily. Qingju was also affected by Lung Ruoxue's words, and his mood became better. Of course, sister, I'm very powerful, Qingju said arrogantly. After he finished speaking, he even looked at the demon provocatively. However, the demon did not bother to lower himself to his level. Seeing Qingju in such a state, Lung Ruoxue knew that the little fellow was fine. He immediately said, Qingju, quickly go and take a look at your own land. Big sister is going to advance. With that, Lung Ruoxue quickly pulled the evildoer away from the bracelet. Seeing that his sister had left, Qingju sighed helplessly and disappeared as well. When the two of them exited the bangle, they happened to enter their room. Without a second thought, Lung Ruoxue and the demon were in their room, ready to advance. Before advancing, Lung Ruoxue moved her spiritual beasts out of her bangle. After seeing Lung Ruoxue, the beasts naturally went to get closer to their master first. Then, the cute little beasts each found a place to lie down. Lung Ruoxue and the demon sat down cross-legged as well and started their cultivation. The two of them were like water flowing when a channel was formed, and there was not much difficulty in advancing. Not long after they sat down, the regulations of the world descended. At this moment, Uncle Long and the others who were sitting in the garden felt the advancement of the laws of heaven and earth. They were shocked, but they were soon overjoyed. The place where the laws of heaven and earth landed was Lung Ruoxue's room. When they saw this, their hearts that had been hanging in the air for a long time finally settled down. Schwetter had finally advanced. The first elder heaved a sigh of relief. Even though Lung Ruoxue had not been in closed-door cultivation for a long time, he felt as if a day had passed by like a year. This feeling was extremely bad. However, when Uncle Long and the others saw the descending laws of heaven and earth, they couldn't help but smile. They were happy, but Pa Tian and the others, who had been waiting outside the house, almost had black faces. Fuck, just how many people were advancing? Originally, when they saw the first law of the world descend, they were already very depressed. One had to know that they were standing guard for the other party like dogs. However, who would have thought that the other party would cultivate and break through as if nothing had happened? Nothing had been delayed. However, when the laws of heaven and earth descended one after another, they couldn't stay calm anymore. He couldn't stay calm. First, they didn't understand the situation inside the house, and second, this advancement had given them too much stimulation. These people had lived for quite a long time, and they knew the difficulty of advancing. However, who would have thought that they would be able to witness such a grand occasion in this small, broken place? The advancement of this major rule dazzled their eyes and also greatly stimulated them. If it were not for the defensive array blocking the outside, they would have probably rushed in and started a massacre. Tu Yang, how much longer will it take to break this defensive formation? Someone couldn't help but ask. The fastest will be half a year. Tu Yang answered while solving the formation. What? ITLL take that long? The man shouted with wide eyes. And that's if there are no accidents under the fastest circumstances. Tu Yang said honestly. His mind was tied down by this exquisite formation, so he didn't really care when it could be untied. However, even if he didn't care, it didn't mean that others were willing to continue wasting their time here. After hearing his answer, the man directly walked to Patian and said, "Big brother, this formation can't be broken in a short time. Are we going to keep guarding here? What else? Or do you have any good ideas for us to attack this house?" Patian, who was sitting in the corner, lifted his eyelids and said indifferently, "I don't have a choice, but I don't think it's much use for us to guard outside like fools. The people inside aren't delayed at all. They're changing shifts and advancing. If we continue to guard this place, and the formation can't be broken in a short time, won't we become turtles in a jar by the time they advance to the divine emperor or reverend god level? Big brother, I understand your feelings of wanting to repay a debt of gratitude, but you should also think about us brothers," the man said, unafraid of death. He had been here for more than half a year and had not come close to anything. He had long wanted to leave this place. "You mean you want to leave?" Patian asked in a soft voice and glanced at the person who spoke. "I'm just thinking for my brothers." The man felt Potion's gaze and his heart trembled. He was quite clear about Potion's ruthlessness, so it would be a lie if he wasn't afraid. "What about you guys? You think so too?" After listening to the man's words, Patian asked the others, but no one dared to say a word, even though many people had thoughts of leaving. "Well, listen to Big Brother." At this time, someone flattered, "Oh, since you're going to listen to me, they'll give you two choices. One is to stay here with me, and the other is to leave if you want to." However, even if there were people who wanted to leave, they didn't dare to say anything, because everyone present knew that the calmer Patian was, the more dangerous it would be. If they really dared to leave, they were afraid that they wouldn't even have to leave the land of demons before Patian would kill them first. In this case, who would dare to mention leaving? Suddenly, the outside of the house became unusually quiet. The first elder and the others who saw this through the flower garden's light screen were filled with regret. "AI, what a pity. Just a little more, and they would have turned on each other." However, now that Shue was about to come out of seclusion, the first elder and the others had more confidence. After a long time, the laws of heaven and earth continued to descend. Why are there so many laws of the world descending? How many ranks did that girl advance to? Shin Nuo, who had been observing Lung Ruoxu's room, could no longer remain calm when she saw the law of heaven and earth descending endlessly. Even if he was experienced and knowledgeable, he had never seen anyone advance in this way. Right? Was he still human? I don't know. However, I won't be surprised if anything strange happens to that girl. You'll get used to it. Lu Feng, who was sitting beside him, patted Shin Nuo's shoulder sympathetically. All right. Looks like I'll have to slowly get used to it." Shin Nuo helplessly wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead. Seeing that the others were all very calm, he felt a little ashamed. Chapter 1972, Class Discrimination 1. Gradually, Shun Nuo's initial surprise turned into shock, then to calmness, and finally, to numbness. Shin Nuo couldn't help but think to himself that anyone who saw the dense law of heaven and earth that was emitting white light and dazzling like the most beautiful gem would probably become numb at the end. And those who had the same thoughts as him naturally included Patian and the others. However, other than the numbness of Patian and the others, there was also a trace of anger and jealousy. Yes, they were envious. No matter what the situation was inside, such a large-scale breakthrough made them extremely envious. One had to know that the higher the cultivation level, the more difficult it was. Thus, when they saw the densely packed regulations of the heaven and earth, they all felt extremely uncomfortable. That sour, bitter, and numbing feeling lingered in their hearts for a long time, until the laws of the world completely disappeared. After an unknown amount of time, the laws of heaven and earth finally stopped descending, but Patian and the others' faces became uglier and uglier. This advancement actually lasted for several hours, right? Was he still human? Fuck. This was clearly trying to anger him to death. However, just as Puotian and the others were cursing the heavens, several beautiful and dazzling laws of heaven and earth descended from the sky. At this moment, the sky was already dark. Therefore, The laws of heaven and earth that were emitting white light were particularly eye-catching. They even illuminated the gray-black night sky, as if it was daytime. Seeing this situation, Patian and the others simply wanted to vomit blood. Fuck! What was going on? Patian and the others all had dark faces, and the expressions on their faces were somewhat distorted, revealing the resentment in their hearts at this time. In fact, they were not the only ones who were puzzled. Uncle Long and the others were also puzzled. However, they immediately understood. That was because the laws of heaven and earth seemed to be falling from the same direction, but their final destination was different. Seeing this, they knew that Fengde and the others had also advanced. Ha ha ha! This was a great thing. This result made Uncle Long and the others even happier. After a long time, the laws of the heaven and earth finally left unwillingly. Lung Roashua and the demon were the first to walk out of the room. When they arrived at the garden, the two of them had just greeted Uncle Long and the others when they saw the people in the garden looking at them as if they were monsters. After a long while, little girl Shui, you've actually advanced 2 ranks in a row and become a god king. The first elder's eyes widened in disbelief as he asked in shock. He knew that Shui was a pervert, but he didn't expect her to be this perverted. She had only been in the immortal realm for a few years. He had actually advanced to become a god king. This cultivation speed truly made him feel ashamed. One had to know that he was only a divine emperor now, and Shui was only 1 level lower than him. However, Shui battle prowess was definitely above his, and her heart-palpitating natal flame was also a lethal weapon that no one could resist. At the thought of this, First Elder's cold sweat began to drip down uncontrollably. It was truly terrifying. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. And that Bratshun, he's also a freak. Could he have become a reverent god after coming out of seclusion? If that was the case, he felt that he could bang his head against a wall. After thinking for a while, the great elder silently glanced at the demon and heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, this kid's strength was currently at the Divine Emperor realm and had not advanced to the Reverent God realm in the future. Otherwise, he, who had cultivated for countless years, would really be so depressed that he would vomit blood. However, that brat had cultivated to the level of a Divine Emperor in less than 100 years. This fact was still enough to make people go crazy. In fact, this was because the demon had deliberately controlled his cultivation level. Otherwise, with the foundation he had in his previous life, he could have become a reverent god in the blink of an eye. However, he wanted to grow with Shui, so he had placed his strength at the level of a divine emperor, only 1 level higher than Shui. This would prevent men from looking down on him. As a divine emperor who was at least at the reverent god level, or even more powerful than a reverent god, he could even pretend to be a pig to protect Shui. Why not? The reason why Shui was able to advance 2 ranks and become a god king in everyone's eyes was all thanks to the help of the origin of chaos. Originally, Shui's speed of absorbing spiritual qi was already very fast. However, the origin of chaos had forcibly increased Shui's speed of absorbing spiritual qi by at least 2 times. As a result, it was expected that she, who had just advanced to the 8th level of the heaven-defying art, would advance 2 levels in a row. After all, as long as she had enough spiritual qi, it would be easy for her to reach the divine sovereign level. However, if she wanted to reach the reverent god level, she would have to wait until she had completed the 9th level of the heaven-defying art. Otherwise, her cultivation would be limited by the art. After all, Shui's main cultivation was the heaven-defying art, and it was quite powerful. Naturally, she would not allow Shui's assistance to surpass her own cultivation. However, the 9th level of the heaven-defying art was different from the first 8 levels. If Shui wanted to complete the cultivation of the heaven-defying art, she had to complete the cultivation of the first 8 levels, including alchemy, weapon refining, beast taming, array techniques, sword techniques, and so on. Otherwise, Even if she absorbed enough spiritual chi to complete the cultivation of the heaven-defying art, the heaven-defying art would not help her. At the thought of this, evildoer could already imagine how depressed Shui must be. However, he also knew that Shui was a person who became braver the more she was defeated. She would never stop because of a small difficulty. On the contrary, the more difficult the matter was, the more it would arouse Shui-er's fighting spirit. This was also one of Shui-er's special qualities that he liked to see the most. This time, Shui-er's spirit beasts had also gained a lot from her advancement. The treasures that had first acknowledged their masters and most of the other magical beasts had all advanced to become Class 9 sacred beasts. The originally weaker silver wolves had all advanced to Class 8 sacred beasts. Their overall strength could be said to have increased by a large amount. Among them, the old phoenix and the other beasts were the happiest. They had finally recovered their strength as 9th-level sacred beasts in such a short time. If it had been in the past, this would have been completely unimaginable. The Silver Rat King, who had just acknowledged a new master, also had a qualitative leap in strength. It had advanced to become a Class 8 sacred beast. As for its subordinates, they had all advanced as well. The weakest among them was a Class 1 sacred beast, and they had advanced the most among the beasts that had advanced this time. This fact had almost made the Silver Rat King faint from excitement. However, Bai Su, who had advanced to the 9th level of the sacred beast realm the last time, felt a bit depressed. This was because, apart from feeling the spiritual energy in his body become denser, there was no sign of a breakthrough at all. However, all the other beasts scoffed at his depression. All the beasts knew very well that although the strength of a divine emperor-ranked beast and a hierarch-ranked beast seemed to be only one rank apart, the difference in status between the two was like heaven and earth. The chasm between these two ranks was not so easy to cross. Otherwise, wouldn't the number of hierarch-level beasts in the divine realm be overwhelming? Chapter 1973, Class Discrimination 2. Lung Ruoxue had learned from her own understanding that after crossing the threshold of a 9th-grade sacred divine beast, all beasts would be collectively called Supreme Emperor-level beasts. They were also known as Godly Supreme-level beasts. However, it wasn't easy to become a venerated Emperor beast. Otherwise, Ziyu, who had already advanced to 9th-level Sacred Divine Beast, wouldn't still be a 9th-level Sacred Divine Beast after several rank-ups. From this, one could see how difficult it was to advance to the Godly Venerable rank. However, the increase in the overall strength of the beast was enough to make Lung Ruoxue extremely excited. On top of that, she now had the strength of a God King. Hence, Lung Ruoxue was very satisfied with her advancement this time. Hearing the first elder's words, Lung Ruoxue smiled and nodded. My luck during this closed-door cultivation is pretty good. I didn't expect to actually advance 2 levels in a row. It's not just good luck. The speed of your advancement is simply heaven-defying. I've been cultivating for so long, but am still stuck at the Divine Emperor level, unable to advance to Reverent God level for a long time. You become a God King in such a short time. The great elder's face was full of envy, jealousy, and hatred. As he spoke, he even lowered his head in shame. He really didn't have the face to see anyone. Have you known Shui for 10 years? The great elder did some calculations, and it didn't seem like there was one. Moreover, even if it had been 10 years, those 10 years would have been nothing more than the blink of an eye for cultivators like them. However, this freak had become a divine king. The great elder was still struggling with this matter. However, at this moment, Lung Ruoxue wasn't clear about First Elder's thoughts. Otherwise, she would have consoled him and said that she had cultivated for more than 10 years because she had been cultivating in the bangle. The time acceleration in the bangle was a weapon that she used to cheat in her cultivation. In this way, her cultivation speed was only slightly faster than that of ordinary cultivators. Of course, Lung Ruoxue didn't have the chance to tell First Elder and the others about these thoughts. Just as Lung Ruoxue was about to be humble, Feng De and the rest walked out of the room in a grandiose manner. When they saw that most of them had advanced to the monarch god realm, the first elder and the others were already numb. However, when the grand elder and the rest saw that there were a few god kings among the divine lords, they could not remain calm. Is this still considered a human? It was one thing for Shwe-er to have become a god king, as she had always been abnormal. He could accept whatever commotion she caused. However, now, the little girl's grandfather and brother had actually become god kings as well. Could this be the so-called abnormal family? In reality, Lung Qingtian and Lung Ruhan were not the only ones who had advanced to the god king realm. However, they stood out among the god kings and were Lung Ruoxu's close relatives. This was why the first elder and the others were so surprised. When Lung Ruoxue saw her grandfather and brother's cultivation, she was also extremely excited. In the past few years, her grandfather and brother had been working hard on their cultivation and rarely participated in any activities. Now that she could finally see their results, Lung Ruoxue was truly happy for them. This was because Lung Ruoxue was very clear that her grandfather and brother were working so hard for her. They wanted to be her support and not drag her down. When she thought of this, Lung Ruoxu's eyes started to tear up. What could make her happier than the support of her family? Not only that, when Lung Ruoxue saw another figure among the familiar faces who had advanced to the God King realm, she was also overjoyed. Big Brother Feng, congratulations on becoming a God King as well. Lung Ruoxu's beautiful eyes gazed at Feng Moran as she sincerely wished him well. Ever since they had left the water margin continent, Big Brother Feng had rarely appeared in front of her. Furthermore, he had spent almost all his time on cultivation. Sometimes, it was difficult for her to even see Big Brother Feng. However, when she saw Big Brother Feng's current cultivation level, she knew that his hard work had finally paid off. It's all thanks to Shwe. Hearing Lung Ruoxu's words, Feng Moran smiled gently. The reason why he worked so hard in his cultivation was all for Shwe. He wanted to stand by Shwe-er's side and not be someone she would protect. On top of that, the cultivation of the people or beasts that followed Shwe-er grew higher and higher. This made him feel inferior and that he was a burden. However, this thought did not make him give up on himself. Instead, it became the motivation for him to work hard in his cultivation. With Shwe-er's help in improving his physique, he didn't feel that he was inferior to others. The only thing he was inferior to others in was probably time. Hence, other than showing his face and seeing Shwe-er once in a while, he spent all his time on cultivation. With the time acceleration in the spatial space, his strength was also improving rapidly without him knowing. Every time he advanced a level, he would feel that he was one step closer to Shwe-er. He was even more confident now. After all, Shwe-er was a demonic genius. Hence, if he wanted to catch up to Shwe-er, he would need more time. It was precisely because he was clear of this fact that he had asked Xingju to arrange for a life-or-death seclusion for him. Unless there was something important, he was not to wake him up. After coming out of seclusion this time, he had successfully advanced to the God King realm. Although the strength of a God King was nothing compared to the many experts in the divine realm, he would at least not be a burden to Shwe-er. When he saw Shwe-er's joy at his strength, he felt that his efforts had not been in vain. From now on, he, who stood by Shwe-er's side, could finally stop feeling inferior. However, if he wanted to become Shwe-er's true right-hand man, he had to continue to work hard. He was very confident in this. Feng Moran's words made Lung Ruoxue feel a little embarrassed because she really didn't think that she had helped Big Brother Feng in any way. Instead, because there were too many things to do, she had neglected Big Brother Feng. When she thought of this, she couldn't help but feel guilty. At this time, seeing that their Miss Hongwugwa had ignored them, Grape and Lotus Seed pouted their pink lips in dissatisfaction and said in unison, "Young miss, we've also advanced to God King." When the two of them said this, their expressions were full of resentment, which made everyone a little amused. Lung Ruoxue didn't know whether to laugh or cry at their cross-off. Lung Ruoxue pretended to be confused and asked, "Weren't you all on the verge of becoming God Kings?" After being in seclusion for such a long time, advancing to the God King level was something that would happen naturally. Wasn't this very normal? I would be more surprised if you didn't make a breakthrough. As soon as he said that, everyone couldn't help but laugh. But after laughing, Fonda and the others were depressed. Young miss, I wasn't able to advance to the God King level, Fonda said with a bitter face. Oh, it's within my expectations. If you have half of Big Brother Phone's cultivation strength, you can also advance to the God King level. Lung Ruashua said. Yes, Miss is right. In the future, you two brothers should focus on cultivation. Miss has us by her side. Chung Wu chuckled evilly as he echoed. The few of them had all advanced to the God King realm. Chapter 1974, Class Discrimination 3. How can we do that? The young lady needs us more. You guys are not as smart as us. Hearing this, Fonda immediately retorted, while Chung Wu only replied coldly, but we've already advanced to the God King stage. Isn't it obvious which one is more practical? Chung Wu's following words made Fonda completely depressed. Boo-hoo, what a bully. He's just taking advantage of the fact that he's cultivated longer than them, right? Oomph. As long as they worked hard in their cultivation, it wouldn't be long before they could advance as they wished. However, they wouldn't be satisfied just by becoming a God King. They wanted to advance to become a godly emperor or even a reverent god. We'll see who's more powerful then. Feng Da's fighting spirit was incited. He turned to Lung Ruashue and said, Miss, I'm too weak now. I request to continue my closed-door cultivation. Then, he looked at Lin Yuan and the others and said, all of you will also enter closed-door cultivation with me. If we don't become divine emperors, we won't be able to come out. Fonda was determined. God Emperor? Captain, do you have to set such a big goal for yourself? When Lin Yuan and the rest heard this, they immediately frowned. A divine emperor? It was so far away, and he didn't know when he would be able to achieve it. If they were unable to advance, didn't that mean that they would have to go into seclusion forever? How boring that would be. Just thinking about it made Lin Yuan and the others feel fear. Far my ass. I originally wanted to advance to Reverend God level before coming out of seclusion. Right now, we only require you to reach the strength of a divine emperor. Why are you all talking so much nonsense? Fonda rebuked angrily, his handsome face full of disappointment. Reverend God level. Lin Yuan and the rest were completely speechless. When the great elder heard Feng Da's words, he said with a smile, Little brat, not bad. You have ideals and revenge, oh. It'll wait for the day you become a reverent god, but before that, let's take a photo together. Otherwise, if I don't see you for too long, I'm afraid I'll forget what you look like. As soon as the first elder finished speaking, the crowd burst into laughter. Ha ha! Fonda, since we brothers are together, we naturally have to take a photo together and leave a memory or something. I'm afraid we won't even recognize you when you come out of seclusion. How sad will you be then? Come. Those who want to take a photo with me, line up. No one is allowed to snatch it. Chung Wu said with a gloating smile. After he finished speaking, he put his arm around Feng Da's shoulder and took out a memory crystal to take a picture of the two of them. Seeing this, Fonda was furious. Then, the great elder took over Chung Wu's position and did the same thing. After all, he was the one who came up with the idea, but now Chung Wu was the one who took the lead. Therefore, he was a little unhappy and the photo took longer. He even asked Fonda to make a few poses, which made Fonda so depressed that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. After the great elder had finally finished bidding, someone else continued to move forward. They didn't even give Fonda a chance to refuse. The overlord forced himself on Fonda, which made him so angry that he stomped his feet. Unfortunately, none of these people were afraid of him. Therefore, he had wasted his time. Seeing that Feng Da's face was red from anger, Lung Ruashue was kind enough not to kick him when he was down. Instead, she said to Fonda and the rest, It's rare for you to have such ambition, so I naturally have to fulfill your wish. So you can go back and continue your closed-door cultivation now. Goodbye. With that, Lung Ruashue even waved goodbye to them, causing Fonda and the rest to be depressed and gain 3 levels. When Chengwu and the rest saw this, they naturally cooperated with their miss and chased Fonda and the rest back to their rooms. Arg, don't be like this. I don't intend to continue my closed-door cultivation. These words echoed in Lung Ruoxue and the others' ears from time to time. However, they were all ignored. The moment Fonda and the others left, the weakest of those who remained were God Kings. Following that, Lung Ruoxue then told her grandfather and the rest about the situation outside. The reason why she took advantage of the situation and sent Fonda and the rest back to continue their closed-door cultivation was for their safety. After all, the strength of those people outside was not to be underestimated. Although Fonda and the others were very smart, the difference in strength between the two sides was not small. Therefore, she could not take the risk and was even more afraid that she would not be able to take care of Fonda and the others. Therefore, the best way was to let them continue their closed-door cultivation, and this was also suggested by them. Of course, this was completely under the premise that they were not aware of the danger outside. Otherwise, if they knew that someone was attacking their house, they would definitely not request to go into seclusion right now. However, Lung Ruoxue would never give them the chance to find out. The moment Fonda and the rest were placed into the bracelet, Green Vessel immediately arranged for them to go into closed-door cultivation according to Lung Ruoxue's request. They could not come out until they advanced in rank. Now, it was difficult for them to come out even if they wanted to. After Lung Qingtian and the others understood the situation, they initially frowned. However, their faces quickly broke into smiles. This was definitely a good opportunity for them to test their strength. However, the strength of the people outside was still much higher than theirs, so they had to think of a way that had the best of both worlds. Otherwise, they would only become cannon fodder. Shuet-er, do you have any good ideas? After some thought, Lung Qingtian asked Lung Ruoxue with a face full of anticipation. This granddaughter of his had a lot of wicked ideas. Therefore, he didn't bother to think about it. No, I didn't. I heard that their leader, that Patian, is extremely powerful. He was a great demon of the immortal realm hundreds of thousands of years ago, but I don't know what level his strength is now. Lung Ruoxue asked curiously. He'll go out and test it out, and he will know. The demon said immediately. He'll go. Uncle Long said calmly as he glanced at the demon. Among them, he was the only one who had fought against the Heaven Splitter and had a certain understanding of it. Therefore, he was the most suitable person to go out. More importantly, Shuet-er had come out of seclusion, so she could naturally control the defensive array at will. In this way, after he went out, the safety of the people in the house would not be a concern. After hiding in the house for so long, his hands were already itching. Now that he could finally go out and break the heavens, how could he let go of such an opportunity? Uncle Long, we'll go out with you. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile. There were so many people outside. How could she let Uncle Long go out by himself? He'll join you too, the evildoer said without even thinking. It was said that Pitian was a lecherous person, so for Shuer's safety, he naturally had to protect her closely. Miss, we also need to go out and meet those people. Seeing that their miss was planning to charge out, Chengwu and the others, who had been silent all this while, were naturally not willing to let go of this opportunity. One should know that they had been keeping a low profile for a long time. Furthermore, they were once warlike people who were hot-blooded. Naturally, they would not want to miss the opportunity to fight alongside Lung Ruoxue. Hearing Chengwu's words, Lung Ruoxue looked at her grandfather, big brother, and big brother Feng, who were also looking forward to it. She nodded her head in agreement. However, before she left, she still worriedly reminded, all of you, be careful. If you can't win in a one-on-one fight, then fight as a group. Hee. Don't worry, miss. We know that we will not be at a disadvantage in this. Chengwu promised. He did not care about combat etiquette. In his opinion, as long as he could defeat the other party, any method could be used. However, Shenhua, who had never heard of such mobilization before a battle, could not help but open her mouth, dumbstruck. After all, according to the rules of the firmament, unless there was a clear rule, one-on-one battles were all tacitly agreed upon. If someone wanted to fight with numbers, then even if that person won the battle in the end, he would be looked down upon by others. However, this tacitly agreed rule did not apply to Lung Ruoxue and the others. This was because this was not the first time he had seen Lung Ruoxue and the others gang up on others. However, this was the first time he had heard Lung Ruoxue say it so openly. However, Shin Nuo's mental endurance was obviously not weak, and he accepted new things more quickly. Therefore, he only froze for a moment before he calmed down and even showed signs of being assimilated. He even chuckled and said to Luiwe, I'm not good at fighting. Why don't we join forces? I think it's fine. Luiwe nodded in agreement. Although he had the strength of a divine emperor, he spent most of his time and energy on alchemy. As such, he was not very good at fighting. Now that he had Shin Nuo's suggestion, he naturally had no reason to object. However, upon hearing their words, Flowing Maple was displeased. Lu Feng's eyes widened as he angrily said, If you guys join forces, what about me? I don't like to fight either. You and Grandpa will work together. Luiwe suggested, No, we're both blacksmiths, and we don't have any advantages together. You and that old man will be in a group, and he'll be in a group with Shin Nuo. This way, we can complement each other. It's decided. Yes, Lu Feng said firmly. After hearing his words, Lu Yu and the others thought about it for a moment and agreed. However, Lung Ruoxue's words were like a bucket of cold water that splashed onto their heads, causing their enthusiasm to be completely shattered. I'm not planning to let you guys go out and fight. Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes glanced at the excited Lu Feng and the others as she spoke indifferently. It's more suitable for you to stay in the house. Uncle Long chimed in. Instantly, the four of them became even more depressed. What? Lu Feng's eyes widened as he asked with an indignant expression. You're either artifact masters or alchemy masters, and your status in the immortal realm is quite high. Of course, you have to be protected. Lung Ruoxue replied matter-of-factly. Lung Ruoxue, you're being biased. The moment Lung Ruoxue said that, Lu Feng was instantly enraged. They even shouted Lung Ruoxue's name. However, Lung Ruoxue was not moved at all. Chapter 1975, Genius vs. Heaven Splitter. 1. Lung Ruoxue raised her eyebrows slightly and said in a calm tone, I'm looking down on you, so what? She couldn't bully the first elder, and Luiwe and Shin Nuo weren't close. So how could she not bully Lu Feng? Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly as she thought to herself. When Lu Feng heard Lung Ruoxue's bold words, his eyes widened in disbelief. That damn girl. Did he hear her wrong? Did he just admit it? She actually dared to admit it. This was preposterous. Lu Feng's anger was boiling. However, other than glaring at Lung Ruoxue fiercely, he really did not know what to do with her. This was because he kept feeling a warning gaze on him. He did not need to look to know that the demonic man was warning him not to bully that wretched girl. Oh, by the heavens! Was there any justice left in this world? He was the one who was being bullied. Lu Feng felt extremely aggrieved. However, that pair of eyes were extremely sharp. Thinking about it, he really couldn't afford to offend her. However, he really couldn't accept being looked down upon by that wretched girl, Lung Ruoxue. So what if he was a blacksmith? After all, he was a divine emperor. How could he let this brat look down on him? If this were to spread out, how would he be able to face others in the future? No, he could not be threatened by evil forces. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue and the evildoer had already become synonymous with evil forces in his heart. He was a oppressed working person, so he had to rise up and resist. Fight for the rights and interests that you deserve. I'm a divine emperor. After a long while, Lu Feng gritted his teeth and said, I know. However, there is still a gap between divine emperors, right? As for you, a divine emperor, I'm afraid you've only fought a few times. Lung Ruoxue said, Who said that? When I was fighting, you weren't even born yet. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue had guessed correctly, Lu Feng could not help but shout with a red face. Really? If you win, they'll let you go out and fight with those people outside. If you lose, you'll just stay in the house and watch the show. How about it? Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Are you sure you want to fight me? I'm a divine emperor. Lu Feng could not help but remind her. In reality, he was not willing to fight with a freak like Lung Ruoxue because he had no confidence that he could win against her. However, he would not say this out loud. Firstly, it would be embarrassing. Secondly, it would boost the morale of others and diminish his own prestige. However, that was what he really thought in his heart. What's wrong with the divine emperor? Do you think that you can defeat me as a divine emperor? Lung Ruoxue deliberately put on an arrogant look as she spoke. Her beautiful eyes were even sizing up Lu Feng from head to toe. The disdain on her beautiful face was also red, and there was no need to hide it at all. Seeing Lung Ruoxue's expression, Lu Feng felt that he had been triggered. This wretched girl was really looking down on him. Of course. Hence, Flowing Maple's nod was very heavy. Then let's have a contest, Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile. After she finished speaking, she grabbed Lu Feng's lapels and brought him to her family's martial arts practice field. Ever since it was built, it had never been used. Today, Lung Ruoxue had decided to use it as the main venue for her first battle show after her rank advancement. Uncle Long and the others naturally followed behind the two. Fuck, can Lu Feng beat that little girl? As they walked, Shenhua asked in a small voice, still a little worried. However, his small voice was heard clearly by the people around him. Your Excellency Lu Feng is definitely no match for my young lady. Before Lu Yue could answer, Cheng Wu eagerly rushed to answer. Actually, I also think that Feng is looking for death. Lu Yue sighed helplessly when he heard Wan Wu's words. He didn't have high hopes for Lu Feng either. I'm not looking for death, but I want to die more thoroughly. The great elder's words were extremely vicious, not taking into account that Lu Feng was his own grandson. When Uncle Long heard the discussion, he also joined in and said, Your Lu Feng has a very sacrificial spirit. He knows that Shui has just broken through, so he wants to be cannon fodder for her to practice her skills. Oh, not bad. He's a good kid. That's a must. He was a man. Those with thick skin and flesh have to be mentally prepared to be used as cannon fodder at any time. This is nothing. Uncle Long's words made the great elder humble. These words naturally reached Lu Feng's ears, who was being dragged along by Lung Ruoxue. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Fuck, what kind of people were these? Were these people really his family and friends? Why are all of you kicking me when I'm down? The more Lu Feng thought about it, the more depressed he became. The anger in his heart had reached its peak, and his body seemed to be burning with flames of anger as he walked, exuding a fierce aura. However, he was being held tightly by Lung Ruoxue, so even if he was unusually angry, he still looked a little comical. Furthermore, Uncle Long and the others would not care about his anger, so he was completely ignored. Along the way, he was talked about by many people. By the time he reached the martial arts practice field, Flowing Maple had already turned into a fire-breathing T-Rex. First Elder and the others actually laughed out loud when they saw his face turning black from anger and his hair standing on end. This caused Lu Feng's anger to rise to the next level, becoming a monstrous rage. You guys, just wait and see. You'll regret it if you look down on me. Lu Feng's heart ached from anger, and he nearly vomited blood. But First Elder and the others did not take it to heart. Upon seeing this, Lu Feng had the urge to bang his head against the wall. These people were really too much. Wasn't he their family or friend? How could they do this? Lu Feng felt indignant. The gaze he directed at Lung Ruoxue also became sharper. Little girl, even though you are very strong, but I'm confident that you're not my match. So you've lost for sure. Lu Feng, who had been provoked, was bursting with confidence as he shouted heroically. In fact, when he said these words, he felt guilty, but he didn't want to be looked down upon by these hateful guys. So, he had to be a man. Otherwise, how could he show off in front of these people in the future? That's what I wanted to say. He's just an immortal emperor. I don't care about him at all. Lung Ruoxue naturally could not show any weakness to Lu Fengquan. Hence, she became even more aggressive. Let's go in. Lung Ruoxue continued. The area of the newly built martial arts practice field was very large, and the facilities inside were also first class. Although there was only one transparent ring now, the cost of this one ring alone was almost half the value of the entire martial arts practice field. This was because the stage was made of top-grade crystals. Moreover, it was a colorless top-grade crystal. It was the first time that the Great Elder and the others had seen this arena, and they couldn't help but gasp. How extravagant was this girl? They actually used colorless top-grade crystals to build the arena. Chapter 1976, Genius vs. Heaven Splitter 2. One had to know that colorless top-grade crystals were extremely rare. Furthermore, their value was extremely high. This was mainly because its spiritual qi could be absorbed by deities of any element. In addition, the spirit-gathering effect of colorless top-grade crystals was better than top-grade crystals of other elements. Now, when the First Elder and the others saw such a large piece of colorless top-grade crystal being used to build an arena and placed in front of them, the shock in their hearts couldn't be described with words. However, Uncle Long was much calmer. Although it was Uncle Long's first time in the martial arts practice field and his first time seeing the arena made of top-grade colorless crystals, he knew that the reason Shui was so generous was because she had made a fortune in the secret realm. Otherwise, she would not have been willing to part with it. As for Lung Ruoxue, when she saw everyone's shocked expressions, she could not help but laugh evilly in her heart. Hee. She just wanted to surprise them. However, one should not let one's fertile water flow into others' fields. The arena in her house was naturally used by her own family, so of course, it had to be built better. Shui, how many colorless top-grade crystals had he used up? You're really generous. After a long while, the Great Elder finally recovered from his shock and said with a smacked tongue. He thought he was very rich, but now he knew that compared to Shui, there was still a gap. Not much, just a few tens of thousands. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Tens of thousands isn't a lot. You prodigal. When Lu Feng heard this, he was so angry that he was about to stomp his feet. First Elder and the others were also rather embarrassed. Look at how generous they are. Even tens of thousands of yuan is not too much. How am I prodigal? You can cultivate here. This is called an investment, understand? Lung Ruoxue spoke the truth. After she finished speaking, she even shot a look of disdain at Lu Feng, as if to say, you don't even understand this. Lu Feng was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood again. Taking a few deep breaths, Lu Feng suppressed the anger in his heart and asked through gritted teeth, didn't you want to compete with me? Hurry up and start. If this continued, who knew what kind of blow he would be dealt? Since you're in such a hurry, it'll fulfill your wish. Lung Ruoxue's smile was as light as the wind. I won't go easy on you, so you better be prepared, he added. With that, Lung Ruoxue leaped up and jumped onto the stage. Not to be outdone, Flowing Maple followed closely behind, and when he reached the ring, he said angrily, who needs you to go easy on me? However, I would like to remind you that if you lose later, don't cry. I won't show any mercy to a woman. The same, both of them. I won't have any tender feelings for you. Lung Ruoxue said in an infuriating manner. When Cheng Wu and the rest heard Lung Ruoxue's words, they couldn't help but chuckle. When Lu Feng heard this laughter, his face turned even redder. Hurry up and start. Flowing Maple knew that he couldn't wait any longer. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to wait for the match to start. He was about to be angered to death by this wretched girl. Good. Receive my attack. With a thought, a sword as thin as a cicada's wing appeared in Lung Ruoxue's snow-white hand. The blade of the sword was shimmering with a cold light, and the sword gleam was so sharp that it was almost tangible. With a slight twist of her wrist, Thousands of fiery red meteors flew towards Flowing Maple from all directions. Needless to say, this was her favorite meteor sword technique. As for Flowing Maple, when he saw this, he hurriedly dodged in all directions, his mouth constantly screaming, "Arg! You're too despicable. How could you use this move on me?" Lu Feng knew very well that this girl would use this sword technique the most against her enemies, but he had never thought that he would have the chance to taste it today. What a twist of fate. He was very depressed. I said I wouldn't go easy on you. Going all out in a battle with an opponent was also the greatest respect for the enemy. So take this. Don't worry. I didn't inject my life flame. Lung Ruoxua chuckled as she teased him. Right now, she was definitely much more relaxed than the flustered Lu Feng. On the other hand, Lu Feng was so focused on dodging her meteor shower that he had even forgotten to attack. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxua was happy to be at peace. AI. When the crowd below the stage saw Lu Feng's flustered appearance, they couldn't help but sigh deeply. They were extremely helpless in this regard. Lu Feng was about to have a tragedy. This was the only thought in their minds at this moment. Moreover, they had been completely defeated in one move. This was really too much of a blow. After Lung Ruoxua used Meteor Shower, she stood at the side and watched the show with ease. She even reminded Lu Feng from time to time where to pay attention, causing him to be depressed to death. After a while, Flowing Maple immediately admitted defeat. I won't compete. He couldn't compete anymore. This brat was such a bully, and her meteor shower was also a bully, because no matter how he dodged, he couldn't avoid the attacks of the meteor shower. Although he did not feel much pain when the meteor shower hit him, his clothes were all ruined. If this continued, he would have to run naked. At the thought of this, he had no other choice but to admit defeat. Moreover, he swore that he would never fight with this wretched girl again. This was simply bullying. He hadn't even used a single move, and he was already half dead from exhaustion. What was he after? Since you've admitted defeat, then you can just stay in the house and watch the show. Lung Ruoxua didn't allow any room for rejection. AI. Knowing that Lung Ruoxua had already made up her mind, First Elder and the others could only sigh. They couldn't possibly be like that fool, Lu Feng, and go up to the arena to fight with that little girl Shui. Therefore, it was better to give up on the idea of fighting the enemy as soon as possible. Otherwise, it would only be a waste of time. Uncle Long glanced at the First Elder and the others. Seeing that they had acquiesced, he said directly, "Since they don't have any objections, let's go out and settle the score with Pa Tian and the others." Uncle Long began to rub his hands together. Although the Ning family's kid had avenged the beasts of the endless ocean, he was the one who had avenged them. He hadn't even done anything yet. And let's go out after I repair the array. Lung Ruoxua laughed evilly. With that, she immediately went to the core of the array. She had set the core of the array in an unremarkable corner of the garden. Outside, it was covered by a group of flowers, which could be considered an open-air secret room. At this moment, out of the tens of thousands of formations in the core of the array, half of them had stopped working and had dimmed. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxua took out countless top-grade crystals and placed them into the array. At the same time, she cast countless complicated spells. Not long after, the array that had been paralyzed started to operate normally again. A large amount of crystal stones was required to maintain the operation of the array. The higher the quality of the crystal stones, the more effective the array would be. Hence, the crystal stones that Lung Ruoxua used to set up the great sky-guarding array were all of the best quality, and the amount required was shocking. Because the array had been broken previously, many of the best quality crystal stones were damaged. Hence, this time, she had invested quite a lot of best quality crystal stones. It was fortunate that she had such a large sum of money. If it were someone else, they would have gone bankrupt long ago. Chapter 1977, Genius vs. Heaven Splitter 3. However, for the sake of her own safety, it was worth it no matter how much she invested. Hence, Lung Ruoxua would not be stingy. After Lung Ruoxua had fixed the array, Tu Liang, who was breaking the array outside the house, immediately sensed it and turned pale with fright. How? How could this be possible? The formation was back to normal. All his previous efforts had been in vain. This fact made Tu Liang extremely dispirited. He had worked so hard for so long and had only solved half of the array with great difficulty. But now he had done it for nothing. How could he bear this? Suddenly, Tu Liang felt suffocated in his chest. A fishy smell rushed up from his throat. Everything in front of him turned black. Then, with a loud dong sound, he passed out. Tu Liang, what's wrong with you? Puotian, who was not far away, saw this and quickly teleported to Tu Liang's side to help him up. When he saw his pale face and a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, he thought that Tu Liang had fainted because of mental and physical exhaustion. He stuffed a pill into his mouth, and not long after, he woke up. As soon as he woke up, Tu Liang was still a little confused. He even asked foolishly, "Big brother, what's wrong with me? You fainted because you overexerted yourself." Puotian explained. Oh, Tu Liang nodded. His eyes sparkled as he remembered everything. He said hurriedly, "No, big brother, I didn't faint because I was overworked. It's because the array that I had previously solved had been repaired, and I couldn't take the shock for a moment, so I fainted from anger." What's the meaning of this? Patian didn't understand. All the formations that I've solved before are useless now. The formation master who set up the sky guarding formation has completely restored the defensive formation. So, all my efforts have been in vain. Tu Liang explained weakly. This fact had hit him hard. Since he had become an array master, he had never encountered such a thing. Therefore, this was a fatal blow to him, a genius array master in the eyes of others. He knew very well that he had lost. He had lost to the person in the house who was even more talented in formations. That person's strength could definitely be called a formation grandmaster, so he did not lose in vain. However, he was not willing to accept this. After all, he had not seen the person in person, so he always felt that he had lost in a rather aggrieved manner. At this moment, the door of the house opened. A group of people walked out from inside, led by a handsome man and beautiful woman duo of 2 men and a woman. These 3 people were none other than Uncle Long, Lung Ruoxue, and Evildoer. After the 3 of them came out, they quietly stood in front of the door. Chung Wu and the others followed closely behind. However, none of them spoke. Instead, they sized up Puotian and the others. When Patian and the others saw Lung Ruoxue and the others, they were slightly surprised. However, they quickly calmed down and even felt a sense of ecstasy in their hearts. They had never dreamed that the people in the house would come out of their own accord. Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes swept across Patian, who was as handsome as a demon. She then said, "You're Patian?" "I am. May I know how to address you, miss?" Patian asked with a graceful smile. When he saw Lung Ruoxue, he couldn't help but be amazed. He had lived for so long and had seen countless beautiful women. However, this was the first time he had seen such a beautiful woman who was noble, pure, and alluring. After seeing Lung Ruoxue, his heart, which had been silent for a long time, seemed to be stirred up again. He had taken a fancy to this woman. Lung Ruoxue said indifferently, deliberately ignoring the message that she had to get from the heaven-cleaving eyes. Although this man's looks were not inferior to that of a demon, she did not like this person. What a nice name. Patian smiled charmingly. His dark eyes kept on sending sparks to Lung Ruoxue as he praised her. However, when he saw that Lung Ruoxue was a little cold to him and seemed to be a little unhappy, his desire to win her heart grew even stronger. Ha ha ha. He loved to challenge the difficult. If Lung Ruoxue saw him and immediately fell in love with him like other women, he might not even be interested in her. This was a man's deep-rooted bad nature. Did the heaven-breaking pavilion come here to praise my name? Lung Ruoxue asked curiously. Of course not. Patian laughed, and even threw Lung Ruoxue a charming look. Then what is the meaning of Sir Patian bringing so many people to besiege my family? Do we have a grudge? Lung Ruoxue ignored him and continued to ask, purposely showing her anger on her face. Hee. Miss Lung, please don't misunderstand us. We're only here to save someone and have no intention of hurting Miss Lung. Patian saw that the beauty seemed even more beautiful when she was angry, so he quickly explained. Is that so? Lung Ruoxua didn't really believe him. She then changed the topic and asked, Who are you guys here to save? The person I want to save is the head of the Wen family. I hope that Miss Lung can give me some face and let him go. Patian discussed with good words. If possible, he wanted to leave a good impression on the beauty. Therefore, his attitude was also very gentle. When his subordinates saw Potion's appearance, they knew that their big brother was moved by this woman. However, this woman was indeed beautiful. If their big brother could get her when he was tired of playing with her, maybe he would reward them. Thinking of this, many people's hearts also rippled with love. Qing Ju, who had read their dirty thoughts, immediately told Lung Ruoxua everything he had found out. After Lung Ruoxua heard it, her expression became even calmer, and she did not make a sound. However, these people were already dead in her heart. If it was someone else, I would give the heaven-cleaving pavilion some face, but that old man from the Wen family can't. I have a grudge against him. I can't let him go back to the mountain. Before she came out, Lung Ruoxua had already heard about the Wen family head, Black One, and the others from Uncle Long. Hence, she had already guessed that Patian had come for one of them. However, even if the Divine Master had come personally, she could not let these 3 people go. Miss Lung, as long as you're willing to let the head of the Wen family go, I can promise you that he won't seek revenge on you again. Is that okay? Patian immediately promised after hearing Lung Ruoxua's words. His legs are his. Don't tell me that the heaven-cleaving pavilion can tie the old man of the Wen family to his eyes all day long. So, I'm sorry, but I still have the same words. I can't let her go. Lung Ruoxua was unmoved. Miss Lung, you're really stubborn. In fact, my suggestion is the best choice for you. After all, you won't get any benefits from being my enemy, so you'd better consider my opinion. It'll definitely guarantee your safety. Patian said with a face full of affection. Of course, he would ensure Lung Ruoxua's safety. Before he was tired of her, how could he let others have the chance to hurt her? There's no need to think about it. I've always believed that it's better to rely on myself than on others, so I'll protect myself well. There's no need for Sir Patian to worry. Lung Ruoxua replied in a very clear manner. Her answer also made Potion's anger rise. However, he still maintained a good demeanor on the surface, and there was a slight smile on his lips, but God knew how angry he was in his heart. That damned woman. You're really refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. My big brother has always been thinking for you, and you actually dare to not appreciate it. You're really looking for death. At this time, one of the people beside Patian couldn't help but feel indignant for Patian. However, when Patian heard this, he deliberately rebuked the subordinate who spoke up for him. You're not allowed to be rude to Miss Lung. Apologize to Miss Lung quickly. Patian ordered with a stern face. There's no need for an apology. Your subordinate is speaking the truth. Without giving the person a chance to speak, Lung Ruoxua said. She did not want to continue watching them perform. Miss Lung. Patian still wanted to explain, but he was interrupted by Lung Ruoxua with a wave of her hand. Sir Patian, you don't have to persuade me anymore. No matter what you say, I won't let old man Wen go. If you want to take him away, you can. Over my dead body. Lung Ruoxua said ruthlessly with a hint of impatience in her beautiful eyes. It seems that Miss Lung is more stubborn than I thought. Forget it. Patian sneered. They'll let Miss Lung be sincerely convinced. However, by then, I won't just be taking away Master Wen alone. You am also taking you with me. If you want to take my woman away, you'll have to step over my dead body first. Otherwise, don't even think about it. Hearing Patian's words, the demon sneered. Your woman? Ha ha ha. You won't be very soon. Patian glanced at the evildoer who was as handsome as him with contempt and looked back at him. Their eyes collided, and electric sparks flickered continuously. It looked like a battle was about to break out. You are that confident? The heaven-breaking words made the demon raise his eyebrows. Very good. He liked confident guys. Beating him up like this would give him a greater sense of accomplishment. Should I not be confident? Pitian asked as he sized up the demon. He was just a divine emperor, yet he dared to act tough in front of him. Wasn't this courting death? From the bottom of his heart, he had never looked up to evildoers. Furthermore, he would let Lung Ruoxua know that it was not enough for a man to just have a pretty face. Strength was the capital to be tough with one's words. We should, however, I'm going to make you more confident. After the demon finished speaking, he rushed towards Pitian like a meteor. Pitian, who had long been prepared, was also ready to fight. In an instant, the two figures were entangled. Chapter 1978. Who exactly are you, one? The two figures were as fast as lightning and as agile as dragons. In an instant, they dazzled everyone's eyes. Chung Wu and the rest could not even bear to shift their eyes away. The battle intent between the two was too strong. This was a true battle between experts. Chung Wu and the rest were extremely excited when they saw the two men clashing in the air. However, the people who were eyeing them like prey were too annoying. They were even affecting their interest in watching the battle between experts. Thinking of this, Chung Wu and the rest looked at each other. Immediately after, they rushed towards those eyesores like shooting stars. Shuer, Grandpa's going to play with them too. When Lung Qingtian saw that Chung Wu and the rest had also made their move, his hands were itching for a fight. After he greeted Lung Ruoxua, he also rushed into the battle without any hesitation. After that, Lung Ruhan flew out as well. Lung Ruoxua looked at how anxious they were and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. No one was snatching it from them, so why were they in such a hurry? This bunch of detestable brats. They actually dare to snatch my person. At this moment, Lung Ruoxua heard Uncle Long's angry words. Instantly, a few black lines slid down her forehead. Uncle Long. Lung Ruoxua called out softly, but Uncle Long didn't have the time to care about her. He said, "Girl, I'm going to." Then, like a stream of light, it charged into the chaotic battle. Was she being abandoned? Looking at her lonely self, Lung Ruoxua was at a loss for words. She did not know what to say. This bunch of people did not even think of calling her over when they had a fight. They had really gone too far. With this thought in mind, Lung Ruoxua's beautiful eyes searched for the fish that had slipped through the net among the people in the chaotic battle. However, to her disappointment, all of the opponents had opponents. Uncle Long was even fighting 1 against 5, taking up several of the opponent's spots. However, Lung Ruoxua did not want to let go of this good opportunity to practice. Her beautiful eyes darted around, thinking about who she should snatch one from. However, before she could do anything, Uncle Long had already taken care of the opponents in her hands. He started snatching people from Chung Wu and the others again. Lung Ruoxua felt even more depressed when she saw this. Suddenly, she caught sight of a guy who was half lying on the ground from the corner of her eye. She quickly walked over to him. At this time, Tu Liang, who was leaning against a rock, felt that the light above him was blocked. He quickly raised his head and saw a devastatingly beautiful woman standing in front of him. Her beautiful face was full of disdain. Immediately, Tu Liang was depressed. He was a relatively rare array master and tool master in the divine realm. No matter where he went, he was always coaxed and flattered by people. However, now, he was despised by a woman. This fact hurt his self-esteem too much. However, he also knew that this was not the time to hurt his self-esteem, because this woman was his enemy, and it was obvious that they were coming for him. Tu Yang himself had the strength of a god king. If it was in the past, he might not be afraid of Lung Ruoxua. However, he had been injured due to extreme anger. In addition, he had used up too much energy in the great sky-guarding formation. Therefore, the current him was so weak that he could be defeated by a single person. Hence, when he saw Lung Ruoxua, he immediately raised his guard. However, even if he was on his guard, it would be of no use if Lung Ruoxua had her eyes on him. Tu Yang was not clear about Lung Ruoxua's personality. so he could only pretend to be calm and wait to see what would happen. Lung Ruoxu's smile was as dazzling as 100 flowers blooming when she saw the calm-looking man. Tu Liang, on the other hand, was dazed and stunned for a moment when he saw her smile. However, he quickly regained his senses and became calmer. When Lung Ruoxu saw this, she couldn't help but secretly praise him. As expected of an array master, this level of concentration was not something ordinary people could match. "What's your name?" Lung Ruoxu suddenly asked. She had seen this man solve the array on the screen before, so she was very interested in him. Tu Liang," Tu Liang replied. Then, he looked at Lung Ruoxu curiously. His expression seemed to be asking, "What's the matter?" Tu Liang intended to lower his presence as much as possible so that this woman wouldn't treat him as an enemy. In fact, he never thought that he was here to cause them trouble. He was only invited to dispel the formation. The fighting and killing had nothing to do with him. However, this was only his wishful thinking. Since he was here, he could not stay out of it. "I'm Lung Ruoxu." Lung Ruoxu introduced herself again. "I know." Tu Liang nodded and thought, "I'm not deaf. Of course I heard you. You're injured, right?" Looking at Tu Liang's pale face, Lung Ruoxu started to find a topic to talk about. "Yes, I've already taken some pills. I'm almost fully recovered." Tu Liang answered honestly, but he was puzzled. What did this woman want? She didn't look like she was here to care about him. But now, the two of them were very strange, as if they were chatting about daily life. This was really too strange. "Then let's have a competition." Lung Ruoxu had finally revealed her motive. Tu Liang was a little dumbfounded. Was this considered a leap of thought? He couldn't understand Lung Ruoxu's actions. After chatting with him for so long, her final goal was still to compete? Then why did she say so much nonsense before? He was a little angry. "How is it?" Lung Ruoxu's face was filled with anticipation. "That I haven't fully recovered from my injuries. I'll definitely lose if I compete with you. So, is there still a need to compete?" Tu Liang said with self-awareness. "Of course." Lung Ruoxu nodded her head seriously. But I don't think it's necessary." Tu Liang spoke the truth. The two of them competing was purely a waste of time. However, how could he understand Lung Ruoxu's overly bored feelings? One must know that there were so many opponents, but he didn't have a share. What kind of feeling was that? It's very necessary. Lung Ruoxu's stubbornness was back. "What do you want to do to me? Why don't you just say it?" Tu Liang was determined not to compete with Lung Ruoxu. The current him was very tired. "Aren't you an array master?" "Of course, I want to take you under my wing," Lung Ruoxu said with a smile. "I'm sorry, but I'm already taken." When Tu Liang heard this, he said with a tinge of regret. He didn't think that Lung Ruoxu would dare to snatch someone from the Yao clan. Of course, he didn't plan to reveal that he was a member of the Yao clan. "That's why I want to compete with you. If I win, you'll be my prisoner, and he'll be able to do whatever I want." Lung Ruoxu replied matter-of-factly, but her words left Tu Liang dumbfounded. So this was what it meant? No wonder Lung Ruoxu was so insistent on competing with him. However, looking at the current situation, it seemed that even if this woman didn't compete with him, he wouldn't be able to escape, right? Hence, he could not understand Lung Ruoxu's thoughts. Chapter 1979. Who exactly are you, Tu? In reality, Lung Ruoxu had requested to compete with Tu Liang because she was bored. She had also wanted to tease him. That, even if we don't compete, I don't think I can escape. So why waste time? Tu Liang reminded her with good intentions while secretly glancing at the situation on the field not far away. "I know, but I'm bored and they're all fighting. I'm the only one without an opponent, so you'll have to fulfill my wish." Lung Ruoxu laughed evilly. After hearing Lung Ruoxu's words, the gloominess in Tu Liang's heart couldn't be described with words. Why was this woman toying with him? "I admit defeat, okay?" Tu Liang said in a low voice after a while. "What do you think?" Lung Ruoxu did not answer, but asked a question instead, her expression showing her dissatisfaction. As soon as he heard this, Tu Yang knew that he couldn't admit defeat. At the same time, he also knew that this woman was not just bored. The person who fought with my big brother is your man, right? Tu Yang quickly changed the topic. Yes. Lung Ruoshu nodded her head and waited for him to continue. My big brother is very strong. Your man may not be able to beat him. If you're really that bored, why don't you go and help your man? Why bother me? Tu Yang kindly suggested, but in his heart, he silently apologized to Pa Tian. I'm sorry, big brother. He had no other choice. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used this move to divert the disaster. When Lung Ruoshua heard Tu Yang's words, she couldn't help but widen her eyes as if she had just heard a fantasy story. Her clear and limpid eyes made Tu Yang's heart feel guilty, and his conscience felt extremely uneasy. You're really a good brother of Pa Tian. Lung Ruoshua stared at Tu Yang for a long time before saying this. Tu Yang lowered his head in shame. After that, Lung Ruoshua changed the topic. She patted Tu Yang's shoulder like a brother and praised him. You're a smart guy. I admire you. As a human, if a man doesn't do it for himself, the heavens will punish him. Therefore, your thinking is completely correct. These words made Tu Yang's face even redder. However, he didn't know how to refute it. He could only feel waves of regret in his heart. He should not have said it so bluntly. On account of your deep brotherhood, I'll fulfill your wish. Lung Ruoshua continued. Then, she took out a translucent white silk from her bangle. With a light flick of her right hand, the white silk seemed to have a life of its own. It wrapped itself tightly around Tu Yang's body. Tu Yang struggled for a while, but seeing that he couldn't break free, he could only accept his fate. Lung Ruoshua was very satisfied with Tu Yang's look of admitting defeat. After patting his head like she was petting a puppy, she immediately leaped into the air and flew towards the direction of the battle between Puotian and the demon. Seeing that Lung Ruoshua had finally changed her target, Tu Yang heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. However, when he saw Bai Ling who had tied him up, he felt depressed again. Needless to say, he also knew that this white silk was definitely a divine artifact with a binding function. Sigh, he was really done for this time. At this moment, the demon and Pa Tian were locked in an intense battle in mid-air. When Lung Ruoshua reached their side, she released her meteor shower without a word. However, it was not a fire element meteor shower. Instead, it was a water element meteor shower, and it was very dense. The moment the water element meteor shower appeared, Puotian could sense it immediately. However, the godly skill that the demon had released was very close to him. Hence, he could only give up on avoiding Lung Ruoxu's meteor shower and focus on dealing with the demon. After all, he already knew that the meteor shower only looked scary, but in reality, its power was very ordinary. Hence, he placed most of his energy on the demon. After dozens of rounds of fighting, Puotian was quite surprised by the monster's strength. According to his previous experience, he should have defeated a monster with the strength of a divine emperor. However, this man did not show any signs of defeat. Instead, he was still extremely relaxed and calm. This fact made him feel quite depressed. However, if he knew that the evildoer had not used his full strength and was just teasing him, he would be even more depressed. After heaven-cleaving flash dodged the demon's divine skill, Lung Ruoxu's meteor shower also hit him. Other than the slight pain from his body, Heaven-Cleaving's clothes were all wet. The thin material of his clothes revealed his perfect, sturdy, and strong figure. When the demon saw this, he smiled helplessly. Then, he leaped to Lung Ruoxu's side and pulled her into his embrace. He said lovingly, "You're really naughty." Ha ha ha. Lung Ruoxu laughed happily when she saw Pa Tian drenched like a chicken. Pa Tian saw this and smiled indifferently. He looked at Lung Ruoxu affectionately and said, "So Shui wants to see my naked body. You should have said so earlier. It's not like I don't want you to see it." After he finished speaking, he even looked at evildoer provocatively. The smile on his face was particularly proud and piercing. "Is Shui or something you should call? I don't care about your naked body. Don't think too highly of yourself." the demon and Lung Ruoxue said in unison. After Pa Tian heard their conversation, he looked at the demon with an "so what if I did" expression. Then he turned his gaze to Lung Ruoxue and smiled charmingly. I know that women don't mean what they say. Shui said she didn't want to see it, but she's probably thinking too much. After hearing this, Lung Ruoxue felt like puking. She wanted to tell him, "You're thinking too much. I'm just telling the truth." However, she could also see how narcissistic this Patillon was, so she might as well not say anything to him and directly express it with her actions. In an instant, Lung Ruoxue made her move. This time, it was the same meteor shower, but it was of the fire element. Pa Tian glanced at the fiery red meteor shower floating in the air. He did not care at all and did not even try to dodge because he was certain that Lung Ruoxue's divine skill could not hurt him. Hence, not only did he allow the fiery red meteor shower to hit him, he did not forget to take advantage of her. Shui Air's heart really aches for me. She's afraid that I'll catch a cold, so she wants to help me dry my clothes. I'm so touched. The fiery red meteor rain hit Potion's body, drying his wet clothes before turning into starlight and entering Potion's skin. Lung Ruoxue, who had once again been taken advantage of, could not be bothered with Pa Tian anymore. Otherwise, that fellow would definitely be even more insatiable. Hence, she immediately shut her mouth. The demon was surprisingly not angry. Seeing this, Pa Tian was rather puzzled. Why didn't the two of them respond to his words? This was too abnormal. Just as Puotian was puzzled, he suddenly felt an even more intense pain in his body. Immediately after, it was as if his body was on fire, burning from the inside out, making him very uncomfortable. A burning smell floated out of nowhere. Seeing this, Puotian subconsciously lowered his head, only to find that his clothes were on fire. Chapter 1980. Who exactly are you? 3. Without thinking, Pa Tian directly mobilized his divine power to suppress the heat in his body. A water attribute divine skill hit his body at the same time, and the fire was put out as expected. However, his clothes also became black and thin charcoal, hanging on his body on the verge of collapse, falling off with a touch. It seems like Shui really wants to admire my naked body. Pa Tian was still taking advantage of him with his mouth, and his eyes were provoking the evildoer. Then his body shook slightly, and his clothes that had been burnt to ashes were removed from his body. This time, he was really naked. However, he was not ashamed of it. On the contrary, he was proud of it. The smile on his face became even more lecherous, causing the evildoer's heart to burn with anger. However, the evildoer was still angry and immediately covered Lung Ruoxue's eyes. Even if she wanted to strip naked for Shui to see, she had to ask him first, "Yeah, why is this old thing naked?" Suddenly, a surprised voice rang out beside Lung Ruoxue and the other two. Following that, Uncle Long leaped to their side and could not help but size Pa Tian up. He clicked his tongue in wonder. This body and skin are really not bad. Uncle Long praised as he watched. Potion's figure was indeed very good. His skin was also delicate and bronze in color. The muscles on his body were well defined, especially the muscles on his abdomen, which had clear and angular patterns. Coupled with his beautiful face, it was no wonder that so many women were crazy for him. "Are you envious?" Puotian said with a faint smile when he heard Uncle Long's familiar voice. However, he kept looking at the evildoer provocatively. What's there to be envious of? He's just an exhibitionist. When the demon heard this, he sneered. At this time, he really wanted to cut the sky splitter into 8 pieces to vent the hatred in his heart. However, killing Pa Tian seemed to be letting him off too easily. Hee, that's right. We're not envious. Uncle Long chuckled in agreement when he heard the demon's words. In fact, he was thinking that with Potion's figure and face, if he used them for other purposes, he would definitely make a lot of money. Fortunately, Pa Tian didn't know what Uncle Long was thinking. Otherwise, he would have died of anger. The more Pa Tian heard Uncle Long's voice, the more familiar it became. Finally, he couldn't help but ask, "Do we know each other?" "I don't know him. Uncle Long immediately denied it. They didn't know each other. They had only fought a few times. Since you don't know each other, then you can all go to hell, Pa Tian suddenly said ruthlessly. Apart from Lung Ruoxue, he did not plan to keep anyone else in the house. From the corner of his eye, he saw that his subordinates had all been captured. They were all tied up and stacked together on the ground. This fact made Potion's heart burn with anger, and his killing intent grew even stronger. We're all going to die. Then what about you? Uncle Long asked curiously. He was a little puzzled. Did this guy not realize the current situation? The people on their side had all been cleaned up, and he was the only one left. Me? Of course, I'm going to take my woman to live a carefree life. Pitian said matter-of-factly, the smile on his face becoming more and more unrestrained. However, when Uncle Long heard Pitian's words, his face couldn't help but sink. He said, "Why are you still daydreaming? You're all alone. Do you think you can beat us? Even if all of you come at me together, it'll be easy for me to take care of you." Pa Tian sneered. Really? Since you've made such a request, we won't let you down. My children, everyone, let's attack together. Uncle Long shouted. Chung Wu and the rest immediately surrounded him aggressively with a trace of anger on their faces. Of course, they weren't angry. They were angry at Uncle Long. This was because Uncle Long had robbed all of their opponents and not killed them. Instead, he had piled them up like garbage. This fact made them angry, and they didn't know what Uncle Long was up to. However, when Lung Ruoxue heard the words children from Uncle Long, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. She didn't expect Uncle Long to be so funny as well. These 3 words were so full of love. Girl, don't laugh. You don't have a share in this battle. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's laughter, Uncle Long indifferently reminded her. Why? When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she immediately asked. She couldn't help but feel disgusted. Was Uncle Long favoring men over women? Why was she not getting a share? She wasn't a flower vase that looked good. She also had very strong combat power, okay? That guy is naked. You'll get a sty from looking at it. So you can't participate in the battle. Uncle Long said in a domineering manner. His words made the demon extremely satisfied. This guy is mine. None of you have a share. The demon said, Brat, how can you keep all the food to yourself? Did he write your name on his body? How can you say that he's yours? Uncle Long was the first to be displeased by the demon's words. Although Chung Wu and the rest were slightly dissatisfied, they did not dare to say such words. Otherwise, this evil man would definitely make things difficult for them. They couldn't take the risk, so they could only leave it to Uncle Long. I'm the only one eating? You're the ones who came to snatch it from me after the battle, all right? The demon said unhappily. He was half dead in his heart. Damn it. This was clearly a battle between him and Pa Tian. How did it develop into a group battle in the end? No, he would not allow it. He would personally send this stinky man who had designs on Shui back to his hometown. At the thought of this, the demon let go of Lung Ruoxue. Then, he grabbed Potion's arm and teleported away with Pa Tian, away from Uncle Long and the others who were staring at them like tigers. Seeing this, Uncle Long's anger directly rushed to the top of his head. Damn brat, you're really disloyal. Uncle Long stomped his feet in anger at the devilish action. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she could only console him. Uncle Long, calm down. I'm also someone who is abandoned. You? How could that guy leave you behind? He's obviously afraid that you'll see another man's body and afraid that we'll snatch it from him. So he took the heaven-breaking tribulation away. Uncle Long said, his head burning with anger. The next second, Uncle Long teleported to the pile of garbage and took them away with him. Not long after, a painful wail was heard by Lung Ruoxue and the others. Chung Wu and the others shuddered. They guessed that Uncle Long was venting his anger. They wanted to do so too, but there was no one else for them to vent. There seemed to be someone else there. Everyone's eyes turned to Tu Liang, who was tied up by Bai Su. Tu Liang felt some malicious gazes, so he simply closed his eyes and pretended to faint. He fainted just like that? Everyone was disappointed, but they didn't have any more ideas about him. Tu Liang finally let out a sigh of relief. At the same time, the evildoer had already brought Patian to the bottom of an unknown dark cliff. Patian looked at the gray, dark, and ghostly place in front of him with surprise. He had a new understanding of the evildoer's strength. Are you really just a divine emperor? Patian couldn't believe it because he couldn't break free from this guy's grasp. Moreover, he always felt that this place was gloomy and uncomfortable. Moreover, he had never heard of such a place in the divine world. Didn't you see it? The demon said indifferently. I don't believe it. Puotian was very sure of his suspicion, but the demon didn't care if he believed it or not. It's up to you to believe it or not. However, I advise you to put on some clothes. It's very cold here, and the air isn't good. Don't get sick. The demon asked with a concerned look. However, his concern was like a cat crying and a mouse in Patian's eyes, so Patian naturally did not appreciate it. However, it was really cold here. Even though he had mobilized his divine power to protect his body, he still felt a bone-piercing chill. With a thought, a white armor appeared on Potion's body, dispelling the cold. Looking at the armor, the evildoer thought to himself, what a flashy guy. Why does he have to be so eye-catching even when he's wearing armor? However, this was good too. At least it would save him some trouble. Thinking of this, the evildoer's beautiful face revealed a smirk. When Puotian saw the mysterious smile on the demon's face, his heart suddenly thumped, and a bad premonition welled up in his heart. He didn't know why, but he always felt that this place was very strange, and there were some strange rustling sounds. Just as he was thinking about this, he suddenly felt the air pressure around him lower, and the chill pierced straight into his soul. Immediately, he quivered and hurriedly mobilized the divine power in his body to resist it. Then, he couldn't help but ask, what is this place? He was already very sure that there was no such strange place in the immortal realm. This place? This place is usually called the ghost domain. The demon laughed as he spoke word by word. What? When Patian heard the words ghost realm, he was shocked. How did they come to the ghost realm? This was not a place that one could come and go as they pleased. Only dead people or gods could easily come here, but they were clearly still alive. Who are you? Potion's face darkened, and he asked vigilantly. He was even more bewildered. This person was clearly only a divine emperor, but he could bring him in and out of the ghost realm at will. He didn't even feel the shock of the space tearing. This was too unbelievable. Was that even possible? Was this guy lying to him? This wasn't a ghost realm at all. However, this was definitely not the divine realm. The divine realm did not have such a sinister place. After thinking about it, Patian became more and more confused. It was as if things had gone out of his control, and this made him, who was used to controlling the overall situation, feel a little flustered. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.